Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order and recognize that all members of council are present and read the land acknowledgement. Municipality of Dysart acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which includes Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Washwell, and Georgina First Nations. And we thank those nations for their care and stewardship as they pass through these lands. Have a resolution to adopt the agenda.
Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Dysart et al., held on April 22nd, 2025, be approved as presented.
Mover and seconder, Nancy and Walt. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, being none, resolution to adopt the minutes of the previous meeting.
Be it resolved that Council approves the March 25th, 2025 regular Council meeting minutes as circulated.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. So next we have the resolution, I believe, to go into public meeting.
Yeah, I'll read that. Be it resolved that Council hereby adjourns the regular meeting of Council at 9:01 a.m. to proceed into a public meeting to consider zoning bylaw amendment file D14-ZB-2025-002 lands of Camp Adelaide.
Okay, mover and seconder. Walton and Tammy, all in favor? Thank you. Okay. Next we'll get started here. This is a public meeting for April the 22nd. Will now come to order. And the purpose of the public meeting is to present planning applications in a planning forum as required by the Planning Act. There is one public meeting to consider and a proposed zoning amendment for Dysart Bylaw 2005-120. It is the council's responsibility to consider all information received to date regarding the applications and to hear and consider any views you may have about these applications. Every person present or registered will have the opportunity to ask questions about the proposals and voice their opinion regarding the same. Please state your name and your relation to the application prior to speaking. Each person will have up to 5 minutes to provide comments or ask questions. Please direct all your questions and comments to the chair. Please restrict your comments to planning matters only, and after the public meeting is over, council will make a recommendation as to whether or not the proposed zoning amendment should be passed. Council's recommendations will then be considered during the regular meeting of council. Once council has made a decision on the proposed amendment, notice will be circulated as per the Planning Act. All those persons who have given the municipality written notice that they would like to receive notice of the decision will receive a copy of the decision. You must make this request in writing to the municipality. If a person or public body who would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the council of the municipality of Dysart to the Land Trust, Ontario Land Tribunal rather, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the municipality in respect to the proposed amendment of the bylaw before the municipality has given or refuses to give approval to the amendment. A person or body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the municipality to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and a person or public body may not be added as a person to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So now we'll commence the public meeting as per the agenda. The first applicants on the agenda are file number D14ZB 2025-002 lands of Camp Adelaide. The manager of planning will now give a brief overview of their proposal and the effect of the amendment.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. So this is for the lands of Camp Adelaide. The zoning amendment is a requirement as a condition of concurrent severance application that recently received provisional approval with the County of Haliburton. The application is seeking to rezone a portion of the subject lands that are being severed by Camp Adelaide and subsequently being merged with the adjacent waterfront properties known as the benefiting lands. Following circulation of the zoning application for this public meeting, staff conducted a site inspection of the subject property. and identified several compliance issues pertaining to the waterfront lots. These matters are outlined in greater detail in the report. All neighboring property owners within 120 meters were circulated, and to date, no public concerns or comments have been received. Given the compliance issues outlined in the report concerning the waterfront properties, staff recommend that council defer the consideration of the application to provide the applicant with adequate time to provide a detailed site plan of their properties and to coordinate with staff in addressing the identified issues. Before proceeding with the zoning amendment, the applicant will be required, as noted, a detailed site plan for each of the benefiting lots for review. This process will ensure that the zoning compliance issues are thoroughly identified and appropriately addressed. Upon resolution of the compliance issues, staff will bring back a revised report for council's consideration. Staff have discussed the recommendations to defer the application with the applicant due to the noted compliance issues on the subject properties. The applicant is supportive of the recommendation that will allow them the time to address the issues of the waterfront properties. And if council has any questions or concerns, staff can answer them.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
No, the applicant is not in attendance, just due to the recommendation to defer. They were supportive of that. So, and I believe they're out of the country right now on vacation.
Okay. So I guess unless there's some public comments, we'll move on to if any member of council has a comment. But if the owners have agreed, then it sounds like we're moving forward. So this will conclude the public comment portion of the meeting. And if council have no further questions, this concludes public meeting file number D14ZB 2025-002, Lands of Camp Adelaide. And we will now adjourn to regular council.
Yeah, I'll read the resolution to recommend deferral. Be it resolved that the report for file number D14ZB 2025-002, Camp Adelaide, care of Lagros, Short, and Curtis, which consists of part lots 29 to 31, concessions 4 and 5, and the geographic township of Dysart, municipality of Dysart at all, be received for information. And that council defer the bylaw to allow staff to work with the applicant to address the compliance issues on the benefiting lands and recirculate the notice of complete application in public meeting.
Okay. Resolution then. Move. Nancy and Walt. All in favor? Carried.
And then I'll adjourn. Be it resolved that council adjourns the public meeting at 9:07 a.m. and reconvenes the regular meeting of council.
Okay, mover and seconder. Pat and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, now we're into regular session of county council, and we have a delegation from Mike Binoff. I hope I say that right. From the Lumax group on the Fire Master Plan.
Good morning, Your Worship, council, staff, and anybody watching online. Close enough with the name. I don't get too wound up about pronunciation, but I'm here on behalf of the Lumex Group. We conducted the Fire Master Plan for your community. And I just want to go through, quickly go through the results. I'm not going to read all the recommendations, but I'm going to go through about 10 of them. And if there's any questions after that, I'll be happy to try to answer them. So, okay. So we started off about a year ago with a meeting with the fire chiefs of Haliburton County. And because all 4 of the departments are conducting fire master plans at the same time. So we had a meeting right over here at the fire hall, hosted by Chief Jumbly, and we got started with the initial meeting. So if we could just go to the next slide, that'd be great. So during that meeting, we talked about the purpose of a master fire plan. And as you can see, it's to ensure that a community complies with the Fire Protection and Prevention Act and any other legislation that pertains to a fire department. It's to provide a clear picture of the community's current and anticipated fire protection needs. It's also to recommend strategies to protect lives and property by enhancing public education, code enforcement, and fire suppression services. And also to provide information to guide administrative, operational, and budgetary decisions. Next slide. So our approach and methodology to do this is obviously to have the startup meeting. And then we go into what we call stakeholder engagements, and we talk to different people and groups, and I'll go over that in a minute. After the stakeholder engagements, we then do data collection. So we're asking the fire chief and anybody that we think we need to get documents from, we'll pull that data in, and then we analyze it and do a lot of reading and a lot of thinking, and then we draft a report, and then we send that report back to the fire chief and to the CAO for comments to clean up any concerns, any errors that we might have made with names or numbers, whatever. And then when that's all done, the final report is then generated, and we come to council and do a little presentation. So the final report is done. So back to the stakeholder engagement. So who do we talk to? Our first talk is with the CAO, and thank you for that time you spent with us. We also spent a lot of time, and I'm sure the chief is sick of me, but I spent a lot of time with Chief Chumbley and going over a lot of different documents and the way they operate and all that kind of stuff. We also met with all the officers of the fire department to get their insight on how things are operating and things they'd like to see, that kind of thing. And then we also meet with firefighters to get their insight. And in addition to all of that, we also provided an online community survey that anybody in the community can respond to. And we had a total of 19 people respond to the survey. And all of those stakeholder engagements give us information that we can use when we're drafting the report. So the fire master plan, the key findings, when we do that, we're looking at a lot of different things. And as you can see on the list there, there's a lot of different areas that we look at: community demographics, the structure of the department, legislation and standards that apply to the department, any bylaws that apply to the fire department, any agreements that you have with other communities or other stakeholders, recruitment, retention, communications, emergency management requirements, occupational health and safety, fire prevention and public education, your levels of service that you provide to the community, the training and certifications that the firefighters have, performance standards and response statistics, the actual assessment of the fire station, water supply, and asset management. So those are the areas that we look at when we're doing all this stuff. So, thank you. When we're doing it, we always keep in mind what the Fire Marshal's Office of Ontario developed this many, many years ago. They call it the 3 lines of defense. There's public education, there's code enforcement, and there's fire suppression. And if number 1 and number 2 fail, then number 3 kicks in. And number 3 is the necessary evil, and that's to have a fire department. If people were safer and followed all the public education that we provide, then we wouldn't have to get to code enforcement. And if code enforcement fails, we wouldn't have to get to fire suppression. Fire suppression is the most expensive part of the whole 3 lines of defense. So, but we are, and I say we as the fire service, we're a necessary evil. We have to be there because accidents happen, things break, equipment breaks down, fires happen, car accidents happen, all that kind of thing. So we have to have a fire service. Next slide, please. So this master fire plan contains a total of 38 recommendations. Don't be alarmed by that number. That is a very average number of recommendations for a fire master plan in the province of Ontario. We see some that'll have 75, 80, 90, 100 recommendations. We might see some that have 20, but this is a very, very average number. And when we look at the recommendations, a lot of them are administrative in nature. It's not a lot of the high dollar things. Sometimes they are, but most of theirs are all administrative. So, but when we do the recommendations, we also put some what do I want to call it, considerations to it. Is it mandatory to meet legislative compliance? Is it necessary that it is approved by council? Is there a budget impact? And when should this recommendation take place? So these are all things that we put in there with consultation with the fire chief on timing and budget and those kinds of things. We've come up with the recommendations. So I'm going to go through, I think I got 10 of them that I want to just briefly touch on. And we call them the top 10, but they're really not a top 10. I just pulled some out of different categories to go through. So we could get to that. So the first one I just want to point out is out of the bylaws section. And this one says the fire chief should ensure that a bylaw is prepared that authorizes the fire department to participate in the County of Haliburton's mutual aid system. This bylaw should be presented to council for consideration and approval. Is it mandatory? No, it's not. But if the fire marshal's office comes in, they'll want to see a bylaw. It's not mandatory, but they want to see a bylaw. Council approval, yes, it's a bylaw, so it has to be approved by council. There's no budget impact, but it should be done immediately. And this is one of the things I said before, it's administrative. And this particular one is alluded to in your establishing and regulating bylaw, but you don't actually have a bylaw that says you can participate. So next one. Fire service agreements. Fire chief should ensure that all automatic aid and fire protection agreements for the department are reviewed and updated as needed to reflect the current levels of service that the department provides. Updated agreements should be presented to council for consideration and adoption. Mandatory, no. Council approval, yes. No budget impact. Time frame, really like get it done now. So next one. Occupational health and safety. Fire chief should ensure that a program is formalized that will keep the Dysart Fire Department's firefighters from being exposed to high levels of diesel exhaust. Fire chief should ensure that all the programs and protocols related to the diesel exhaust exposure adhere to firefighter guidance note 3-1 and the Ministry of Labor firefighter cancer prevention checklist. Again, it's not mandatory. We don't need a council approval for that. That's an in-house thing. There could be budget impacts, but that would come into the budget process, and the time frame is kind of short term, so 1 to 3 years type of thing. So levels of service. Fire chief should ensure that a formalized water rescue program is developed. Program should include all necessary standard operating guidelines, training lesson plans, and documentation. You already do this, but there's no formal program on paper. So that's what we're saying. You do what you say and say what you do. So is it mandatory? No. Is there council approval needed? No. Budget impact? No. It's just sitting down and putting it to paper. And time frame, just work at it, get it done. Next one. Training and certifications. The fire department should formalize a driver competency program that outlines the steps that personnel must take before driving an apparatus. And I was, Chief just informed me this morning that he's working on the first part of that. So he's already jumped the gun on this one. And I think it's more of a timing thing with when courses are available. So it's great to see it's already started. So is it mandatory? No. Does he need your approval? No. Is there budget impact? No. But the time frame, need to get this done so that your drivers, the people that are driving these big fire apparatus, are properly trained and are competent. Fire station assessment. And this is more for this body, not the fire department, but Dysart should conduct a study to assess the condition of the fire station. Should also assess the station's compliance with the AODA. Is it mandatory? Yes, because it is dealing with the AODA. Council approval? Yes. Budget impact? Probably. And time frame? Short term. So again, 1 to 3 years. Another one with fire station assessment. Municipality should ensure that a corporate asset management plan is reviewed and updated to reflect the current cost of fire station replacement. When I was reviewing the current document, it was done just before COVID. And as we know, when COVID hit, prices went through the roof. So the asset management plan is not really up to speed with today's current prices. So that should be done. Next one. Fire station assessment. Again, the municipality should be developing a fire station replacement strategy. Should include information about site selection, land acquisition, funding strategies, construction, and disposal of the current facility. Is it mandatory? No. Council approval, absolutely. Budget impact, absolutely. And time frame, you should get started on this right away. It's a long process, so the longer you put it off, the longer that it's going to push prices out a lot. So the sooner you get at it, the better. Water supply. Municipality should conduct a water supply study to assess the non-hydrant protected areas of the community. The study should determine the best locations to install dry hydrants and the feasibility of doing that. Should also investigate the feasibility of installing a dry water main from Head Lake up to the downtown core. Is it mandatory? No. Council approval should be, yes. Budget impact there will be, and time frame again, need to get started on these things. I think this is the last one I wanted to talk about, or close to the last. Municipality should review its existing asset management plan again to determine which updates are required to maintain the Dysart Fire Department's current levels of service or to expand services. For instance, if you were to buy an aerial ladder truck. Not saying that that's what you're going to do, but that's an example. Updated plan should then be presented to council for consideration and approval. Is it mandatory? No. Council approval, absolutely. Budget impact, most likely, and time frame again should get started on these things to get these asset management plans up to date. So that's the highlights of the master fire plan. I would highly recommend and encourage each of the council members to read the whole document, not just the executive summary, to understand why these recommendations were made and go from there. Any of the council mandate or the council's stuff that council has to approve, the chief is going to have to come back to you with a report to justify those that movement, if you want to call it that, and for your approval and consideration. So again, I would like to, on behalf of the Lumex group, thank you very much for allowing us to do this document. It was interesting. It was fun. I don't get to Halliburton very often, to Dysart very often, but I do enjoy it up here. It's God's country up here. So thank you again. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. If not, thank you again.
Any questions from council?
That was too easy, your worship.
What's never that easy? I think you referenced the Disabilities Act and stuff that exists. Is it not compliant now?
I don't know if you've had an assessment done, but there's a couple issues over there that should be addressed. Yeah,
Could be fixed.
could be. Yeah. So there will be dollars involved, obviously, but yes, there's a couple issues there.
Certainly going to take some time to find another site. As you say, it's a process.
It's a process, and if you don't start now,
It'll be all used up.
Exactly. You put the one thing we don't want to see is you put this document on the shelf and let it get dusted over. So keep it out and keep looking at it. So yeah.
Sure, there's no question. You did a good job.
Thank you, your worship, and thank you, council, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the final presentation of the Dysart et al. Master Plan by the Lumex Group.
Mover and seconder. Carm and Tammy, all in favor? Are you coming back, Fire Chief? Okay, all right, okay. Okay. Mr. Waller, you like to come up, please? How are you doing?
Good morning, your worship, council, staff, and everybody else that's watching. I just have a couple of things. One is, I'll get right to it, the accessible parking spot that's in front of the Legion. There seems to be some confusion when people are parking there. They seem to think that in front of it, you can park. And so when they do so, they block our driveway, or they back up far enough that nobody can fit into the accessible parking spot. So I would like council to be able to put some lines, 20-foot parking spot, and then put some lines just to block that off, just so that doesn't happen, if that's at all possible. And then the other thing is in lieu of what has happened in the last couple of weeks with the ice storm and everything else, and with the Legion being designated as an emergency shelter, I've come to council to ask for some money for a generator. There was times that we couldn't offer any assistance to anybody. There were some people that were without power for a week to 10 days, even longer, and we couldn't help them at all. So I would like to have since we are an emergency shelter, put forth that come up with some money to make it so that I mean, I don't think the weather's going to change any. I think it's going to get worse or whatever, and there's going to be more chances for people to need the emergency shelter. And I just would like to put that forth, that we move forward on trying to do that. We've put in for some grants to try and get some money, but we've been turned down 3 times so far. I don't know where else to go with it, so that's why I'm coming to you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know if this is helpful though, but from our own experience with emergency management, this is our control center. If we have an emergency right here, we do have a generator on the building, but it doesn't run our water systems or anything like that. It's just a few plugs in the building. So we're in a bit of a need too. The one thing we did do though at the arena, because it's a similar issue, is after a power outage a number of years ago, we got the wiring put in place there so that if something does happen, it's just a call to Sunbelt or whatever other company, and they bring the generator right up and plug it in, and you're rolling in minutes. We almost had one coming up this week when we lost the power lost a phase for a week, but we had it ready and it was on the truck ready to come up here in minutes. So I don't know if we've done that twice now. We've had it almost on its way up once and it turned around and went back because the hydro came back on, but just having that power electrical work set up to be able to take a rental.
Yep.
And I think we found it was around $4,500 for a week or something to rent it, which when you look at the overall cost of a large generator like that to run these huge buildings, it may be an option to consider while
Yeah.
you're trying to find the bigger
Well,
funds.
yeah, it's a great option,
Just
actually.
getting wired for it.
Well, yeah, that's it.
That
Yeah.
would be a good start.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it would be. I never thought of that. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, we could.
That's
I
another good
know even
option.
Sunbelt rents them,
Yeah.
but
And the last was the crosswalk, I think.
Well, I'm in the midst of doing that. I've got I took a petition up this weekend and I've got over 400 names, so I'm going to continue that. I'm going to the MTO with that. If I could just get a letter of recommendation from the township, that would help out, I think, to push that forward through with the MTO.
I don't want to discourage you, but we tried to get one over at Gardens
Yes.
and MTO said, no, it was too close to a corner.
Yeah.
An intersection. And of course, here, you're right in the head.
Yes, I realize that, but I have people in there. It's just like, the old Frogger game, watching the people trying to cross the road. So, and I'd hate for somebody to, especially, we just had the elections there this weekend, and trying to watch people cross the road was a bit of a drastic situation. So if I can get one in, I'd really like one.
Mike, I just want you to know, in council, we actually have a report under Public Works today about the pedestrian crossover request. So it's asking council if they'd like to get the people who are currently evaluating that, to get them looking into a possible crosswalk in front of the Legion. So that's what the staff report is later today.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
no problem.
Thanks very much. So that's it for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
If I could hear your recommendations sometime later on, that would be wonderful. Thank you, council.
Done a good job over there, by the way.
So I have a resolution to receive the delegation. There was a request about like a yellow no parking zone. I don't know if council has opinions on that or has any comments.
I think that's something that we can work with staff on.
Okay. Would you like me to put in the resolution that you direct staff to arrange for it, or?
I think so. I think I saw that when the hockey games were on. You couldn't possibly get in and out their driveway. So it is a problem.
Okay.
Just about
Um,
Signs on the road. That,
Tamara Murray, do we have a written protocol of, say, an ice storm situations, how things are, who's what and what's where and everything else? I haven't been looking for any, but I'm thinking we should have it together if that happens again. Like there's no internet service here at the township office for quite a while. And to me, I got Starlink at home and it never shut off.
Yeah.
But to me, do we have something in place for that right now or?
At the moment, I think we're taking the lessons we learned from that one and trying to set up some redundancies going forward, whether it's alternate lines or things like that. But we have had some discussions and I think it'll probably form part of our emergency management training this year as well.
Okay, because again, like to me, we should have a plan in place there. So something does happen.
Yeah.
It's almost not even a conversation. Everybody knows we're going to the Legion or the rink or here, or this is a command center or whatever. So we all know what we're doing. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, in terms of we do have all those places listed in our emergency plan in the index. The Legion, the schools, the church basements, the arena, they're all listed as evacuation centers. We don't have agreements with most of those that aren't our own buildings, but we've identified them as potential places in the community we could reach out to if we needed. So that
But
kind of stuff's listed
West
in the
Guilford's
appendix.
equipped with that.
And West Guilford,
Yeah.
yeah, and Harcourt.
They've
and
got the
places
generator
like that.
towers.
Yeah. Harcourt does too.
Harcourt does too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Great. Yep. Nice.
would council like to wait till Public Works is on to discuss yellow line painting in general, or?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll do a receive resolution at the moment. So be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the delegation from Mike Waller, president of the Haliburton Legion, regarding the request for financial assistance for a generator for the Haliburton Legion and a request for line painting in front of the accessible parking spot.
And Tammy, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, next would be Haley, I guess. Good hair day. I have a lot of those. Is Haley coming now or? Okay, Haley, what's the sign they want to sign on the side of the building? At the corner there?
Yes, I believe there's an individual here to speak towards this request. In my report, I just outlined the violation of the sign bylaw that would require relief. There's some commentary about other businesses with similar signage, which I did expand upon, and then there's some comments from Public Works. I don't know if we want to allow the delegate to speak first, and I can comment after if there's any questions.
No, let the delegation speak. Go ahead.
Good morning. So I'm here on behalf of my husband's business, Good Hair Day, which is located now on its second month at 218 Highland Street. But we're on the side door, so technically on Maple Street, facing the Rexall. And because we are a bit off Main Street, a lot of the people are going through the front door of the current business, which is BOA Beauty. And so that's why we proposed doing a overhanging sign versus a flat sign so people can see it off of Highland Street. I should have read the bylaw first, but based on similar businesses in the area, I saw there's about 6 other overhanging signs. And because 218 technically impedes the sidewalk, I was saying if we were able to put this high enough where it doesn't interfere with snow plowing or anything else, and we're open to putting it anywhere on that front span of the building, so it doesn't have to be right where the door is or the window if there's other highway signs that are in the way. And basically, if this was up right now, it would probably take up maybe a quarter of the sidewalk. But if we put it high enough, that it doesn't impede.
That's your presentation.
Would it interfere with the plowing the sidewalks?
Well, she's saying they can put it up high enough.
High enough, yeah.
I know.
Yeah, so similar to like Needful Things has the awning, they're able to go under it, so we would make sure we go a bit higher just to be safe.
Okay, Haley?
Yeah, so to address the snowplow question, we did get some commentary from Public Works regarding the tractor with the blower truck loading chute sits at approximately 148 inches. So that's the clearance that they would need to get that through. Additionally, they had concerns about the sign will have water or ice falling from it and accumulating on the sidewalk beneath, potentially leading to some slip or maintenance issues. In terms of the other businesses mentioned in the delegation request, TD and Castle Antiques were mentioned. Both of those signs do predate the current sign bylaw. Juna was mentioned. They did not apply for a sign permit, and we do have an order on that property. HGG was also mentioned, also did not apply for a sign permit. We also have an order on that property. With the exception of Juna, none of the above mentioned signs overhang the traveled portion of the sidewalk. I understand Needful Things was just mentioned. That building has been pre-existing since long before the current sign bylaw.
How high did you say it had to be?
148 inches is what was given to me by Rob Camelon for the tractor with the blower and truck loading chute. There's also a number for the tractor with plow or blower and standard chute. That's 94 inches. So the higher of the two is 148 inches.
12 feet. And, it's not 12 feet.
We can't hear you on this side, just so you know.
I think we need to talk to Rob when we get, I just don't understand the 12 feet. You?
I mean, if that's the case, then they'd be taking the eave off the building every time, right? Because the eave hangs out so far and it's only 8 feet. So I don't know how much further that sign would hang out. If it was attached to the side of the building, it would barely hang out past the eave itself, right? So anyway,
Rob's coming on later. We'll go back to it.
All right.
Yes.
Like in regard to the ice buildup too, Haley, I think, that's could be every business on the main street. So, I mean, shop owners I think they're pretty conscientious of that. At least they should be. If there is a problem, going out there and fixing it as soon as it starts accumulating. So,
Would you like us to promote Rob? Sorry, Rob. But in order to get this resolution cleaned up, instead of jumping back and forth,
If he's available.
he's here. So if Lori, if you don't mind trying to promote Rob and seeing if he has comments.
Hey, Rob, we're dealing with this Good Hair Day sign on Maple Avenue. And report was that it's 140 some inches. We're trying to get our head around that.
140 inches or which? I'm sorry.
That we needed clearance for the sidewalk plow.
So I provided 3 measurements. The 140, I believe, is for the truck loading chute. So we have a truck loading chute, we have a standard chute, and then we have the snowplow blade for it. So that would be the highest clearance required should we have the truck loading chute on any given day.
Okay.
What is normally used on that little stretch of sidewalk, the same sidewalk plow that comes up the main street around the corner?
Yes, we have one sidewalk plow. I'm gonna say 99% of the time we have the blade on the machine. This year with the amount of snow we had, we did run the blower for quite a while. And for the first day or two, just with removals ongoing, we had the truck loading chute on for a little bit of that as well.
On the main street.
Yes.
So Rob, can we get by with just the sidewalk blower mount? I don't know if we'd be using the truck load out stuff on that side of the street, but anyway, I think 12 feet is gonna put them up onto the roof. On that note, but
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's council's decision. I'm just, at sometimes we do have the taller chute on. But I mean, we should be looking where we're going in the first place, so.
Yeah, and also the chute should be out in the middle of your, right? Like you're gonna have your blower is gonna be 3 or 4 feet to the inside. Is that right, Rob? And your chute would be more in the middle of the blower, right?
I'm not sure if it's centered or offset on that one. Probably centered.
Well, I mean, yeah. I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
How about if we listed, if we knock it off of the blower next year, it's not our responsibility.
sounds like we got a deal here.
What council could grant it on the condition that applicants work with staff to make sure the sign doesn't interfere with snow clearing operations.
I think that's a reasonable approach.
And then if it does interfere, then it interferes, so, but that's the option. So I'll read that and let me know what you think. Be it resolved that the request by Good Hair Day Halley for relief from section 4.1 of the sign bylaw is granted on the condition that applicants work with staff to ensure that the sign is installed high enough not to interfere with snow clearing operations.
Okay, does that sound good? Okay, mover and seconder. Barry and Pat, all in favor? Barry. Okay, we'll just work through it then, and hopefully we can do that. I did get a call from the owner, Dr. Finkelstein there, and he said, we're trying to fix up the corner. I didn't mention that bright yellow building to him, but anyway, some people comment on that. Looks good though. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, next we have Marta. Yeah. This is Marta, are you here? Yeah.
I think it's Melissa. Melissa's next. But we do have a staff report with this. I don't know, Jeff, if you want to start with that first.
Yeah, I'm happy to start with this while you bring Melissa forward. So this item is a returning road closing application for the lands of Sheffy on Silverland Lake. The agent, Ms. Markham, is in attendance today to speak to council. I'll note that staff's initial recommendation in the March staff report was to deny the request based on official plan policies to preserve public access to this public lake, or what we thought was a public lake. Ms. Markham has since provided information which indicates that Silverland Lake is privately owned and therefore not open to public access. Just to ensure we weren't going to close any public access, or if council wasn't going to close any public access if they approve this, we did talk to the municipal solicitor, who has confirmed that this is a privately owned lake and therefore not open to the public. 2 resolutions have been provided in the report for council, depending on whether you wish to approve or deny the request. As I mentioned, Melissa's here to speak to you, but subject to any questions for me, we do seek direction how council wishes to proceed.
So thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Melissa Markham Planning, 1025 Rebecca Lane, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2J6. As you heard, I'm here today on behalf of the property owner, Greg Sheffy. I was retained by the owner in February of 2024 to assist with another planning application. And at that time, the owner was looking to start the process to close the road allowance in between two of the properties that he owns that leads from Kinesis Lake Road to Silverland Lake. These lands are under the ownership of Greg Sheffy and previously under the ownership of his grandfather. When Greg took ownership of these lands, he was aware of the liability associated with ownership of Silverland Lake. He's had discussions with surveyors and a lawyer who provided that he does own the lake bed of Silverland Lake, and therefore there is liability concerns with uncontrolled access to this lake. An application was submitted in February of this year to close and purchase a portion of the road allowance that leads from Kinesis Lake Road to the northern boundary of Mr. Sheffy's land holdings. When the staff report was posted for the March 25th meeting, we read the recommendation and we requested that council defer the application in order to allow me time to present this information for council's consideration. Staff's report provided an overview of section 3.2.7 of the municipal official plan, and it does provide suitable access to the lake and to protect the road allowance for possible future municipal purposes. I would like to offer, and I did in the letter that I submitted, that section 3.2.7 does not state that the municipality will not close and convey road allowances. It provides that the municipality will normally not. I would like to offer that Greg Sheffy, having ownership of the lake, which has been confirmed, and you just heard now by your solicitor, this is not a normal situation, and council does have discretion to allow for the closure and the conveyance in this specific situation. The letter submitted with my delegation provides that while the road allowance provides suitable access, Silverland Lake has not been registered by the Crown and is in private ownership. We'd like to offer that the municipality retaining this for public access to a private property would not be appropriate in this situation, and this would provide further liability to the owner, which they're trying to minimize through this application. Further, in the staff report for today's meeting, staff provided that the municipal solicitor was consulted and agreed that the bed is privately owned with the exception of the small portions of the lake located on the unopened road allowance. It's our opinion that closing these portions of the unopened road allowance through this application and conveying to the owner is appropriate. It will limit public access to the lake, and it would not be of interest to the municipality to protect this for future recreation or public service purposes. As the PIN map and parcel register provide, the owner of the lake bed is private, which has been confirmed, and we're here today to request that the entirety of the road allowance, which was applied for from Kinesis Lake Road to the northern land holdings of the owner, be closed and conveyed as requested. And I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any thoughts?
So sounds like then even if somebody could walk into the lake, they can't actually go on the lake. Is that what that's the water? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering if.
My question, Murray, that I've had brought to me over this is, even if he owns the lake bed, he doesn't own the lake water. Is that correct?
The PIN map that we had submitted through you, Mr. Mayor, was that the owner does own the entirety of the lands. None of this is separate from the ownership of the rest of his property. So it would be the liability on this property would also be anything that was to occur within this lake.
I've just got lots of questions on, not that nobody accesses it anyways, but if someone did want to go in there to go for a swim or who cares, go fishing, whatever. Even if he owns the lake bed, he doesn't own the lake water. So if you went in the wintertime, you stood on the ice, is that he doesn't own the ice? Is that correct? I'm just relaying the questions that I've been getting.
That's a tough question, isn't it?
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the understanding that we have is the fact that the owner owns the land which is underneath. Therefore, that is under his ownership. So regardless of the amount of water that would be on top of it, the land itself is in his ownership.
What's Jeff's thought on that?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I defer to the solicitor's opinion in the report that notes that the bed of Silverland Lake is privately owned and therefore the lake is not open for public use. So it couldn't be used for fishing. It couldn't be used for swimming without trespassing.
This is a really odd case, just so council knows that this is what Ms. Markham's trying to explain. Often in cases, the Crown owns a lake, owns the lake bed, but this is not the case here.
Well, I think if that is the case, then I think we're
tight.
okay to sell it to them.
Very expensive.
Well, typically, we would never do this, but, it's a different, it was considered a lake though, was it? It was named a lake?
Ms. Mayor, yes,
Fishing or-
there is a name for the lake,
Yeah.
but the ownership, as we've said, they're typically under the Crown owns the lake bed of all the rest of the lakes. In this situation, they do not, and it's Mr. Sheffy that owns the lake
So
bed.
it was part of the 100 acres or whatever,
That is correct.
kind of like a swimming pool. It's a big swimming pool. Well, what's everybody thinking here? Okay, everybody. I know there's gonna be some people that are gonna be angry, but it is, yeah, it's different. Yeah. Okay. Mallory, I guess we need a resolution.
Okay, be it resolved that council approve the request by Sheffy, application L07-RO-2025-003, to purchase a portion of the original road allowance between lots 15 and 16, concessions 7 and 8 in the geographic township of Guilford. These lands are declared surplus.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Barry, all in favor? Barry. Thank you. Okay, next. Yeah, for Chris, I'm not sure who's doing this one.
No, thank you. I can take this one. And this is another returning file, which is a license of occupation application for the lands of Rob Gordon, who is in attendance today. Following council's decision in March, Mr. Gordon provided comments and requested a delegation with council to discuss this decision. The comments are attached to the report and they're summarized in the report as well. Staff also have included our comments responding to those comments within the report. Ultimately, while we appreciate Mr. Gordon's comments and the complications these conditions may impose, we do note that they are designed to protect the municipality and the taxpayer. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for council to maintain their original decision, which aligns with our policies. But again, Mr. Gordon's here today to speak to you all.
Good morning. Good morning, Your Worship. Good morning, Council, and good morning, staff. I am Rob Gordon. I brought with me today Betty Gordon, who is a retired clerk treasurer of 27 years, and I brought her in to help me fully understand, because to be honest with you, I'm a little overwhelmed. I am the proud owner of 1432 Green Lake Road, and I'm not sure if any of you received my emails that I sent on both April 4th and 9th. I did not receive any comment back for any of those emails. I just want to make sure you received them. And if so, and you read it, I am going to be going through in more thorough detail what I've discussed on those emails. I am glad that I am here today. I did pay the $100 fee in order to speak with you today, even though there is no reference to that fee in your fee schedule bylaw. But I am here today and I'm appreciative. The reason why I bought this property is ever since I was 13 years old, I wanted to own a cottage, and it actually worked out in my favor with the lifestyle that I'd chosen, to have the correct financial advisors and the correct accountants and things like that in order to finally make my dream come true. Although I bought this property, I bought it at a time when it is quite expensive. And my mortgage has gone up quite a bit due to everything that's happened with the pandemic. And but I have put pride in that ownership. I've updated a lot of things to my cottage. I support locally with the local plumbers, electricians, cleaners, bakeries for welcome gifts, the Wolf Sanctuary, restaurants, and yeah. Regarding the two meetings that I was in, I'm kind of confused because in the January meeting, council came across as quite willing to legalize all the buildings that as is. They agreed that my septic was installed correctly with the correct permits, so on and so forth. It was no big deal. But these are some comments that were said in January. No big deal about my shed, and confirming the years that both the cottages were built. In fact, I've also talked to MPAC, and come to find out, I'm actually paying for not only the 2 cottages, even though I don't own the shoreline, for taxes, I'm also paying for a 3rd cottage. That confused me because I thought, how can I have a 3rd cottage? So what I did was I actually got the information of the previous owner, Ray and Kelly Shelley, of my cottage, and they provided me with abundance of information regarding their property dating way back in the 1800s, in fact. And I was quite interested to find out that my property was part of 3 properties. And back in the 60s and early 70s, it was actually a resort. And when the Johnson family actually severed the lots into 3 lots, in order to please council at that time, I had to remove, or I didn't, my property had to have 2 of the cottages removed. One of the cottages that were removed is actually where the shed is, in one of the sheds in question is, which is within the shoreline allowance, and is 3.5 feet off the shore as well. I was quite interested to find out that with Ray Kelly, sorry, that when he bought the land in 1989, the shed in question the floor was rotted out. And at that time, he talked to the building inspector, Dan Sayers, and Dan granted him permission to remove the shed, repair the floor, and put the shed back in its place as long as he didn't make any changes to that. The shed up above my property at the very back end of the property, Ray built himself with permission from Dan Sayers. I don't have any documents to prove this, but Dan Sayers came out to site to discuss about a garage that he wanted to build, and he said to Ray, sorry, to Ray that in order to build this garage, one of the sheds had to go. There's a mystery neighbor of mine that I actually got contact with finally. Mystery meaning that he's never there. I've never met him. None of my neighbors know about him, but I finally did contact him. He bought his property beside me in 1984. He assures me that both of my sheds were there at that time, as well as the deck in question that is encroaching on his property was also there in 1984. And I have pictures of both the shed and the deck back in 1984. Jeff mentioned to me that if I could prove that these things were there before 1977, it's grandfathered. And I'm asking council that if I have documentations, which I can present, that proves that it was at least there in 1984, is that close enough? That shed, if it was there in 1984, you don't know, I don't know how long that's been there for. It was there, could it be 2, 3, 4, 5 years? In 1970 or 1973, when everything was severed, our assumption is that the cottage was replaced with a shed. And the fact that when Ray Kelly bought in 1989 and he had to replace the floor, that shed had to have been there for some time if the floor was rotted out. That shed, the one closest to the water, the last council meeting, someone, I'm not sure which councilor asked, but that was asked how high it is off the ground, or how high it is off of the lake. It is 4 feet above lake water. And that shed also has strictly toys for kids. I do a very thorough process to find out I only want to rent to families, and they all have kids or grandkids that come. And I just don't want the shed to go to the other side and forcing children to cross the road in order to go get some water toys or dinghies or life jackets, so on and so forth. So although I can't prove it was there in 1977, I can prove that that was there in 1984. Mr. Fleshman, Norman Fleshman, the neighbor of mine, has agreed to sign a document, a notarized document if required, stating that both the shed was there and that the deck is on his property and he doesn't care and hasn't cared since he owned in 1984. The reason why some of that deck is actually encroaching on his property is because you guys granted both cottages, although they do not meet today's setbacks bylaws at all, but those are grandfathered in. It was built in 1945, 1958, and it's grandfathered. Well, the bunkie or the upper cottage is actually 3 feet off the property line. So the reason why it encroaches on his property by 3 feet, only the first portion does. Just the first portion encroaches for 3 feet by 6 feet. Is so that you can swing open the door and bring in groceries or your luggage or whatever it is that you're bringing in, and it just gives a little bit more room. But there has been no alterations since 1984 to that deck, and it has been there since at least then. Although it's been repaired with rotten boards and things, no alterations to the deck itself has happened. I'm a firm believer in rules. My job is I build and design staircases, actually. I know the code quite well when it comes to that kind of version. And I want to give an example. If you were to build a house 4 years ago, the minimum run of a stair was 8 1/4. These days, it's 10 inches. I have requests all the time of people wanting to remove and replace their stairs. And the fact of the matter is, back more than 4 years ago, staircase openings were designed for only 8 1/4. And I can't retrofit the stairwells to fit 10-inch runs anymore. And it's created some problems, and there's some grandfathering that's involved there. As long as I don't make any major changes to the stairs, then I can keep within the 8 1/4. I'm asking that since these specific items were there for at least 41 years, if they can be maintained, if they can be stayed the way that they are. Yeah, that's what I'm asking for, to see if I can keep it the way that it is, given the fact that it's been there for so long. And my other question is that if I didn't apply for a short-term rental license, it's to my knowledge anyway, that we wouldn't even be having any of these discussions. The items in question would have been allowed to be kept. I could keep the sheds. It's been there for that long and no one's complained, or I haven't received any information from the municipality that it needs to be removed or anything like that. But only because I'm asking for a short-term rental license, I now have to remove all these things and bring those things from 41 years ago into today's bylaw, which to me is, and in my opinion, unfair. So I'm asking, if possible, if I can keep what's been there for that long, just keep it the way that it is, please.
Plus, you've only allowed to rent five.
Oh, and the other thing is that in my opinion, I don't feel that some of these rules are fair. Your fees are for a short-term rental license. There are plenty of short-term rentals out there that are there for a whole year. I can only rent 5 months out of the year, and I have to pay the same amount of fees and so on and so forth, because they're strictly seasonal cottages. I can't be there all year round, unlike others that can utilize the beauty of Halliburton in the wintertime with skiing and dog sledding and so on and so forth, ice fishing. So I wondered if that was possible.
I like the concerns that you have, and I think
I'm really sorry. Mayor, I can't hear you very well. If that's you, that's I can hear staff very well, but council, it's very hard to hear.
it's I think you're passionate about what you believe. However, I have a little bit of problem with being over on somebody else's property. What happens if that chap sells? Somebody's going to pick that up. You can't be on somebody else's land with part of your buildings.
Can I address that?
Yes.
Mayor? I just question, back in 1977 or 75, whenever the severance took place, all those cottages were located exactly where they are today. And at that time, the Land Division Committee and Council, building inspectors, whoever, approved all of it. I'm surprised that at that time, it wasn't noted and someone would have had to do a minor variance or a zoning bylaw amendment. But nothing of that was part of the condition. So at that time, it was all approved. And the cottage is right where the lot line was when the severance took place.
I can't answer something that happened back then, but doesn't make it right that it's there now. Anyway, any comments from?
Yeah, could you make a comment on this, Chris or Jeff, please? About the stairs and the deck?
Yes, in terms of the deck, the best process is the process outlined in the Planning Act, which includes the legal process to provide maybe a right-of-way or to sever a portion of the neighbor's land to be added to this property for a lot addition if you want to recognize the location of that deck. As the mayor mentioned, like, staff have similar concerns that by avoiding this process and simply accepting something in writing from a neighbor, is that ownership of that property is subject to change and could change as early as tomorrow. That new owner or even the existing owner could also change their mind based on a bad short-term rental, and not want that on their property anymore. And therefore, we've already issued a license of occupation that says it can be there. Lastly, it should be noted that that portion of the deck cannot be included in the short-term rental license because it's on a separate lot. So in discussion with Haley, the short-term rental bylaw would only apply to that lot. So the portion of the deck on the neighbor's property would not be included in that short-term rental. So that's the comment staff have with regards to the deck. The stairs themselves, council, if we're talking about the stairs attached to the deck, that's one thing. But if we're talking about the stairs on the road allowance, council did agree to a license of occupation agreement.
We're not discussing about
Yeah,
that.
that's fine.
Yeah, they don't need to be removed, the stairs on the road allowance.
But the stairs leading up to the deck portion is 6 foot by 6 foot, and after 6 feet, it reduces back down to 3 feet for the remainder of the whole deck. The stairs leading up to the 6 foot portion are 6 feet wide. Always have been.
Can you reconfigure that deck at all to keep it on your own property or no?
Well, I could reduce it to be 3 feet wide.
I think that might be your best way out, because again, in terms of liability and it snowballing into liability for you as a renter, being, somebody happens to fall off it or break their leg. Next thing you know, your neighbor, who is a great neighbor now, won't be happy if he gets included in a lawsuit because it's on his property. On that note, so again, I'm not being controversial to you. I'm just trying to find a way through the goalposts for you. But I think if you're in that type of business, it'd be best interest for you to shave that down, keep it on your own property, and that's going to absolve that problem. But unless I misunderstood, are we still talking about that shed down by the lake still? I'm wondering if there's a way through council here we could maybe defer that order until I think we're reviewing that process right now. And the results of that will be available later on this year. So to me, in my own mind, if we can get them an STR license with a condition that we review that after that decision's been made on how the shed setbacks, I think that gets him on his way here.
Council, for further context, and I want someone to correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this shed's on municipal land. So is that true? Okay, because this is where I'm getting confused. There's no grandfather. I don't know if there was some communication problem, but there's no grandfathering of a shed location when it's not on your own private land. You've put it on land that you don't own. So I'm a little confused by that. Like, you're right, if the shoreline was purchased, and then we could look at setbacks and so on, but this isn't land
Actually,
owned.
Mallory, that brings up a very good point. It was requested on the January meeting to actually purchase the shoreline by council. So that's very nice. Because it was also requested back in '97, and Ray Kelly did not end up buying the land because that time council was scared that he was going to sever it into 2 lots, which of course I'm not planning on doing. You can put that right in there that you cannot do that because I don't plan on doing that. but I am planning on purchasing the land, or applying to buy the shoreline. The way that the counselor, I'm not sure which one, back in January said well, won't this solve all the problems if he just buys the shoreline? And can you clarify that? If I did apply, and my plan is to apply to purchase the shoreline, does all of that go away then?
In terms of with the shed, but going back to 1997, you're right, council did deny a request to purchase a shore road allowance based on a legal opinion. In terms of the shed on the shore road allowance, so my comments are guided by the official plan. And that's what I was discussing with you with regards to whether that shed could stay. So what the official plan says, when purchasing a shore road allowance, council should remove inappropriately located accessory buildings. And that specifies that it should comply with the zoning bylaw, or it should be proven that it either was assessed prior to 1977 or had a building permit prior to 1977. So if we were to go through that process to purchasing the shore road allowance, unless you were to provide proof of legal non-complying status, staff's recommendation would still be for that shed to be removed.
So I'm just curious, if you have setback bylaws for something that's on your property, how can the cottage itself be grandfathered in? Mallory was just saying you can't grandfather it in, but you have grandfathered in the cottage that does not follow at all your setbacks. How can that be grandfathered, and 30 feet away where the shed is, that can't be grandfathered? Just curious.
Neither are grandfathered at this moment. So just to clarify your earlier comment, you cannot grandfather or have legal non-complying status for a structure that's on municipal property.
If
that
it is
same section of the official plan does allow council to grandfather that dwelling, but not that shed, because that dwelling it's been assessed since prior to 1977, but the shed hasn't.
So if you're saying that I can potentially leave that there if I were to buy the property, then I ask you if it's possible, as the one counselor mentioned, to defer this for a year, because my plan is to buy it. That way I can leave the shed there and the kids don't have to cross the street to grab a life jacket. I can start the application
as per the
right
report,
away.
I just want to clarify that shed would not be allowed to be used as part of the short-term rental too. So in the staff report, it notes that if there's sheds down by the water that are illegal currently, council did grant, I think, a year for those to remain or to be remedied, but they can't be used as part of the short-term rental. They would not be included in that license. So if you were to store stuff in that, it would not comply with the short-term rental bylaw either.
Just curious, I'm not trying to be difficult, but why? If it's just toys in there, what is the safety concerns for that?
In terms of the short-term rental bylaw, that's from a different department. I think it's more of the illegal status of the shed, not what's in it.
Jeff,
Okay, then
is there no way that the shed could be moved at all? I don't know. There's absolutely no room at all.
Well, the thing is
Do you have
that
pictures of
in
your-
order to
Let me just ask you this question, Mr. Gordon. If you're saying you're storing life jackets and other kids' toys for the beach and that, couldn't you just remove the shed and buy one of these large a container that a lot of people have down near their docks that hold
boxes.
Yeah, deck boxes. That's what I was looking for. Could that not happen to get you out of the mess with the shed? And number two, are you not agreeable to work with your neighbor to sever that little piece of property there to make everything?
that part, absolutely. I will call Mr. Fleshman today and ask if that's
Would that
possible.
not resolve some issues there, Jeff?
Pardon me?
Would that resolve the issue of if he just worked with his neighbor and severed that piece of property off?
Yeah.
So if you
That's
buy a
what's recommended
if
is
you buy a
either
deck-
to
if you buy a
remove it.
deck box and you sever the property, I think your two problems might be resolved.
I'm not trying to be difficult, but you're saying that you were willing to allow a deck box down on the shoreline allowance, but you're not willing to allow.
Let's not argue, sir. Like, I think with a deck box, maybe I better ask, is a deck box allowed?
Jeff?
Yep, so the zoning bylaw allows deck boxes within the setback, but not a building.
Okay.
Well, I think if you
Could
want
I
to,
ask you,
you're gonna have to move the shed, whether you like it or not, and put a deck box there and try it, as Pat said, either reduce the size of the deck to 3 feet or to buy a piece from your neighbor. Then you can get, everything will be clear.
Okay. Is it possible to purchase a minor variance for the shed or no?
Illegal.
I can answer that if council would like. So you have to be the owner of the property to apply for a minor variance. Because this shed is located on municipal property, you would need council permission to submit a minor variance application. I do caution council then again that this does not comply with our official plan. I know council is considering changes to the zoning bylaw to permit structures within the setback, but this still would not comply with what's being proposed or discussed.
Jeff, could you tell me if there's a size limit on the deck box?
There's no, it's not regulated in the zoning bylaw size, no.
Thank you.
But they don't have a roof. They're not a building. They're just the size of his desk. That's the difference. Okay, so. Okay.
This is maybe a question later on for Haley, but Jeff, you mentioned the short-term bylaw, they can't use sheds down by the lake. That's something, to me, something we got to get straightened out on that note. That's a new one for me, but anyway.
If they're legal, they can, but if they're illegal, they can't.
I understand. Okay.
So basically, Mr. Gordon, we're really trying to help you here, and we understand your passion and all that, but I think, you know, your easy solution is to work with your neighbor and our
Yes.
planning department to resolve the deck and the stairs issue, and then the shed. I don't know whether you got a lot of fond memories about the shed or whatever, but you got to get rid of it maybe and get a nice big deck box, and you should be able to enjoy your property.
All right. One last question is, I live 4 hours away. I am a single person. I work a full-time job. And right now, what was sent to me a couple weeks ago from Adam is that all of these have to be resolved now in order to receive my occupancy so that I can finish applying for my short-term rental license. Can I have an extension of some sort? I mean, I am going up for the first 3 weeks of, or first 3 weekends of May. And that is so that I can do some repairs and updating to please your short-term rental license. For instance, like I'm adding another, or not adding, I'm creating a bedroom so I can have a maximum of 8 people based on my septic system. And so I'm going to be doing some work up there. I don't think I'm going to have enough time, especially given that it's April 22nd, to get all these things done in order to get my short-term rental license, because I'm full this year with guests.
Jeff, with the conditional license, did it require that everything be done before that was issued? Or am I'm getting, was there, sorry, you answered.
Yeah, the conditions imposed by council in terms of bringing the shed into compliance, the deck into compliance, and what was the other one? Getting the entrance permits, say, prior to the issuance of a short-term rental license. So we can go ahead with the license of occupation process, but before they can start renting, it says they need to remove the shed and the deck and get an entrance permit.
Right, so it says prior to the execution of the license of occupation, the shed located on the Shore Road allowance needs to be removed or brought into compliance.
No, it says prior to the issuance of a short-term rental license.
Oh, I'm reading right here, prior to the execution of the license of occupation, the shed located on the Shore Road allowance needs to be removed.
Oh, you're right, it does. My notes say otherwise. It says prior to the issuance of a short-term rental license.
So
in terms of the license of occupation, they have to remove the shed before we'll issue the license. of occupation, they have additional time to address the deck and the other conditions it says prior to the issuance of the short-term rental license. So the shed should go immediately. The rest they have until they want to rent.
Well, then, does that work for you?
If I get all that done, how long of a process does it take in order to get a short-term rental license afterwards? Like if I'm not going up there until May, I don't even have water. It's seasonal. I have no water or anything running at this moment because it's still freezing at night and things like that. So I'm stretching it to be there the very first weekend of May. In order to get all this done, how long would it take to get the short term? I have to have the license before my first guest comes June 1st.
All you need to do is move the shed and apply
Yep.
for the license, get the application in.
Okay.
And go ahead and do the other two things. You got time to do those.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, the license of occupation we can issue within days. I see
And Haley's here to
arrived on the
speak
screen.
to the to the short-term rental license.
Hi, everybody. Yes, so I've just been working and listening. We did bring in the conditional license for the short-term rental. So if there are zoning violations that need to be addressed, but that license of occupation exists, we can do an additional license, which gives the first year to bring those items into compliance. You just can't use them as part of the rental.
Okay. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and once the application is received, if everything's in line, we usually get them done within a week.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Makes sense.
Mallory, can you maybe clarify something? So while the short-term rental bylaw may allow that, council's passed a resolution saying prior to the issuance of that short-term rental license. So should that be amended if they council wants to give them more time? I'm just wondering
Yes.
what takes precedence, a council resolution or that bylaw?
I think that now that we have a conditional licensing, we might need to say that we're approving a conditional license to override that, because that's what I'm saying, and I think that's what Rob was saying too. When I'm reading the past decision there, it's kind of, and I know what you were thinking there, Jeff, but it looks like it's telling him to do it all right away. But staff want to and council wants to allow the conditional licensing. So
Perfect. Okay.
I'm gonna have to write a resolution that allows that. I wonder if we want to take a break. Sorry, council, so that I can get this right.
On this. Okay.
Sorry.
I say, okay, we'll take a break.
Okay, and I'll make sure it's written, but don't go away because we'll come back and we'll read it, and then everyone will understand we're on the same page. Okay?
How long does it take you to write that?
Not long. I'm gonna pull Jeff in, make sure I've got it right.
Let's not break. Let's finish it right now and we're not moving very fast here.
Oh, well, I need to write it, so you guys will be watching us do that, but that's why I suggested a break.
Okay.
Okay, 1 sec.
10 minutes?
I can get it done in 10 minutes. That works.
Okay. Okay, let's hear it, Mallory.
So I have a resolution here. Council will have to make a decision on how they want to move forward on this. So we have be it resolved the council receive the staff report. I will read this in full soon, but the conditions that are in right now is that prior to the execution of license of occupation, the shed located on the shore road allowance, which does not comply with the minimum water setback, shall be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. I believe that was council's direction. Can we confirm that first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
The next point is the deck located on the neighbor's property. It still says in there prior to the issuance of the conditional short-term rental license, the deck attached to the dwelling which appears to encroach on the neighboring property, which does not comply with the necessary setback, shall be brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. Is that something council wants?
Well, he's either going to bring it into compliance or he's going to buy more property. So that's his option.
Okay, so that the condition right now is that it says prior to the issuance of the conditional short-term rental license. So I want council to understand that that's what the condition says. Is that okay?
I don't think we wanted to do that, did we? No, we didn't want to do that. We don't, we want to give him time with that.
So you want to go ahead and allow the issuance of a short-term rental license on that? So I can remove that. So I can remove that requirement. What will be given is a short-term rental license application. We know that part of the deck encroaches on the neighbor, so that part can't be licensed, but that's the nature of conditional short-term licenses is that they're often messy. So I'll take that. So council wants me to take that point out.
Could the deck not be brought into compliance though, just by decreasing the size of it
Yes.
prior to the short
But
term?
I don't know if that's what the applicants want. I don't know if they'd rather go through buying land or what they'd rather do.
Buying land is going to be a lengthy process, right?
Yeah.
But if you bring it into compliance, then that kind of tidies up the short-term rental.
It makes it
liability away from the neighbor as well, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, that would do it, because time he gets a survey and fools around to get 3 or 4 feet, and it's going to cost him a lot of money, I think he's better to just reduce to 3 feet.
Rob, what are your thoughts on this since you're in here with us?
I probably want to reduce it. I just don't know if I have enough. I will try very hard to have enough time to do all this and make sure I have my license before May 1st.
Okay, so we've removed, it's not that it's still not an issue, but we've removed the notation on the shed that appears to be located within the interior side lot line, because the suggestion is that a conditional license of occupation be applied, and then the other conditions be worked through while you have this conditional license.
Right.
So we removed that from the list. So I'm going to read the resolution in full, and then we'll see if everyone's okay with it. Be it resolved that council receive the staff report for the license of occupation application L07-LO-2024-007, and further that council approves the license of occupation for processing subject to the following conditions. 1, prior to the execution of the license of occupation, the sheds located on the shore road allowance, which do not comply with the minimum water setback, shall be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw as amended. 2, prior to the issuance of the conditional short-term rental license, the deck attached to the dwelling, which appears to encroach on the neighboring property, which does not comply with the necessary setback, shall be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. 3, no further or future development is permitted on the south side of Green Lake Road. And 4, prior to the issuance of a short-term rental license, the applicant shall apply to the necessary entrance permits.
Which that doesn't take long. So
No.
That's what we agreed to. Yeah. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Thank you very much.
So Murray, I just need a mover and seconder on that one.
Seconder, Barry and Nancy, all in favor? Carrie, thanks. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Okay, next.
Thank you. The next one is item 3F on the agenda, which is for severance proposal and consent. The severance application was submitted to facilitate the creation of 3 waterfront lots from the existing 2 parcels. Although the original lots were created through a severance in 1996, the Planning Act now permits previous severed parcels to merge through cancellation of the original consent certificates. As a result, the application will merge the 2 existing properties into 1 parcel through the cancellation of consent. Once completed, the property will then be subdivided into the final configuration of 3 waterfront lots. Each of the proposed lots will meet the minimum size requirement to support future development. To ensure the process is properly completed prior to finalizing the proposed severance and lot configuration, a condition has been included requiring the cancellation of the original consent certificates to be completed first. Additionally, the proposal will be subject to a severance agreement to ensure the lots are developed in accordance with the applicable municipal policies and the recommendations of the environmental study as submitted in support of the application. Circulation, there is no circulation requirements of the Planning Act for pre-consultation for the proposal of this application. However, the proposal was circulated to internal departments for comment, and to date, no comments have been received. It is recommended that council support the general principle of the proposed severance as submitted, subject to the included conditions and comments received through the public review process. And I believe the consultant, Stefan, is in attendance to speak to the application and address any questions.
I think it's pretty clear. Stefan, do you have any comments?
Yes, good morning. It's still morning, everyone. My name is Stefan Sherbach with Plantscape Inc., 104 Kimberley Avenue in Bracebridge. Just on a technical note, and I think the previous delegate mentioned as well, the audio in your council chambers is very, very low. Maybe there's a setting, just because staff are great. I can hear staff loud and clear. It's just I have to adjust my volume to hear you, Mr. Mayor, and some of the council members, just as an FYI. Sorry. So yes, I am here today to speak on behalf of the McKellar family. Very brief presentation here. We've been working with the family and the ecologist to assist them with the subject severance request. As your planner correctly noted, they have 2 separate properties on Kawagama Lake. The original request was to sever land from one property and sever land from the other property and then merge them together, kind of a convoluted process. But thankfully, one of the good changes to the Planning Act recently allows the previous severances to be canceled. So then the properties, in fact, will merge, as your planner duly noted, and the intent is to create 1 new lot where there's currently 2 today. First of all, I want to thank county staff for their support, and also Jeff and Chris have been very helpful. Their ongoing assistance with this application has been really appreciated. The application obviously includes an environmental report that properly assesses the shorelines and provides typical recommendations to appropriately develop each lot. I've read the report in front of you. I fully agree with the thorough planning analysis provided by staff, as well as the recommended conditions in front of council today. The conditions are all reasonable and typical in this situation. Just to perhaps verify, as Chris again noted earlier, the 2 lots were created back in 1996. I'm assuming that the payment for parkland and the payment for parking will only apply to 1 new lot, because we're looking for net 3 lots where there's 2 today. So I'm assuming the applicant had previously paid those fees. And again, just to clarify, that would be appreciated. In conclusion, I would respectfully request council's support so that the county can complete the severance application, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Any questions? No, there's no questions. So resolution, I guess, Mallory.
Was there something that Chris needed to clarify there?
Just yeah, I can address that if need be. So the way our bylaw reads is that it's newly created lots that would be subject to the fee. However, since there's 2 existing, you're canceling, but then you're creating only 1 additional out of the 3 that are going to be there. I think would be acceptable that the 1 fee would just apply to the new lot as opposed to the other two that were already existing. Just more of a technicality, but I think it's just would refer to the brand new lot that's being created.
Do I need to alter the resolution at all?
No, I think the wording justifies,
Okay.
that. So I think we should be okay there.
I'm just going to do a shorthand resolution here because it's so long, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to change anything. So be it resolved that council support the general principle of a severance proposal for file number D00-SV-2024-008 and D00-SV-2024-17, lands of 2772318 Ontario Incorporated, subject to the conditions and comments outlined in the staff report. Sorry.
Okay, mover and seconder. Pat and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Okay, now back. Guess that's all the planning for now, isn't it?
Yeah, looks like it for now.
Yeah, okay. We'll see you a little later then.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I froze for a moment. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I see you've had a busy morning, so I'll try and keep this brief. Thank you very much for having me join you. My standard staff report as far as call volumes and stuff like that, it's very nice to see we have remained fairly close to last year's numbers. Our overall numbers are a little higher for the year so far. It does appear that we will be dropping off a little bit here in April as the way the current numbers are, which is great. I'm hoping that's reflecting upon the new medical dispatching priority system that the county ambulance system department has taken on. As well, I want to bring to your attention that the Firefighters Association is intending to purchase a trailer would allow us to consolidate all of our rescue equipment in one spot. Currently, we have some items within our current rescue vehicle, and then when the firefighters get here, they have to grab more of our floater suits and our dry suits. So we're trying to have it all in one spot, so there's no chance of us leaving something behind and being short a piece of equipment. So I just wanted to be aware that the association has investigated that and are trying to enter into an agreement to purchase that with the intent to donate it to the municipality. As well, I want to say thank you very much for accepting the report from the Lumex group this morning. It was a pleasure working with the gentleman from Lumex, and I learned a lot. The important part of the fire master plan there is to really make sure, again, our liabilities are covered. We have all of our paperwork and documentation, all of our training, and with the interaction of my neighboring municipalities, the chiefs would get a lot of information, but with us being the center, I don't see some of the input from the outside. So it's really nice to have their expertise come in here and give me some guidance. Is there any questions that I can answer maybe for that or from any other questions in general about the fire department?
Any questions? No, looks like you're good, Dan.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Resolution, Mallory.
Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the fire department report from March 2025.
Mover and seconder. Walt and Tam, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Dan. Now, Andrea. Pretty simple request, I think.
Yeah, I actually wrote this one because it's the same as what we had last year. So the Haliburton Home and Cottage Show wants to use the medical center parking lot just on the Saturday this year, so they can do their shuttle service back and forth.
Okay, so we'll have a resolution.
Yep. Be it resolved that council grants permission for the medical center parking lot to be used on Saturday, May 31st, 2025 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the 2025 Haliburton Home and Cottage Show.
Okay, mover and seconder. Carmen, Pat, all in favor? Here. Okay. Okay, the electronic sign.
Yes. So in the 2025 budget, it was approved for the purchase of an electronic sign for the Welcome Center Head Lake Park area. I've since met with the Director of Public Works and talked to our county IT department, trying to pick out the best location for the sign, which is the southwest entrance of the parking lot going into Head Lake. I did attach pictures to give you a better visual. The electrical would come from the panel that's already at the boat launch, and then IT said it would be really, it's not a problem to put a point-to-point contact on top of the Welcome Center that would be solely for the use of the sign. And then for procurement, they have a company that we might be able to source a sign from. But we will put out a tender to take a look and see if
So we
what
haven't
can come up.
purchased that sign yet, right?
No, we have not purchased it yet. There's part of the sign too would require an exemption from bylaw, in section 4.3 of bylaw number 2022-39, because it would have a flashing or changing sign, being an LED sign or electronic sign, that varies in intensity and intervals, just as the one outside at the arena does.
That's the same kind of sign we got out here, right?
Yeah, we're looking to get something similar. It might not be from the same company. We're going to tender and see what comes in within budget, but something similar in appearance and style. Yes.
And that sign was $25,000 or $30,000, wasn't
No, it came in at 18,000. With 18, it was around 18. It was just under $18,000. And that included like implementation, the framing, the sign, everything to all the work for it.
Just people coming into town, but I don't know just how necessary it is in these times, but.
We do frequently get a lot of requests for promoting the events down in the park as well, and we only have a couple of spots like the corner of 21 and stuff that people put the physical
Have
signs
to be
in.
careful where we put it because we need to create more parking down there.
Yeah, the suggested location is across from Hook, Line and Sinker, I think on the left side of the driveway.
Is
Yeah.
town okay with that?
Just where it shows on the picture is gonna have to be talked about because I don't need to.
Your mic's not on, Nancy, just so you know.
Yeah. Where it's shown on the picture right now, it's gonna
I
have
don't
to
know
be,
where we're gonna put it either.
you
It's
know,
not gonna
moved
be in-
over kind of behind the hydro pole, because that all gets plowed, that all gets winged way back, so.
Down by the dock or the boardwalk might be a better solution there. It's beautiful. It's snow plows and kind of direct line of sight when you pull in that.
I thought it was.
driveway. There's a lot of action there between snow plowing and people parking and bumping into it. I don't think that's a good spot. That's my own opinion.
No, there may be requests, but in these times, are we spending $18,000 or 20? Fine.
I think.
Murray, are there people talking in council chambers?
No, they're talking in the hallway here. There's a noise coming from the electrical room. So
Sorry,
it's-
it sounded like it was wild in council chambers. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Another issue maybe where it's set up there right now is that's a tough spot to pull out of. And I'm not sure if it might do a little bit of blocking the view to come out of there too, maybe. I'm just a little concerned about the area of it. I think Pat may be right. If we could put a little closer to the lake than there might.
What about moving it down towards the lights, like the schools?
Well, I think then you're costing a lot more for your electrical. What about moving it up more toward the tourist information booth?
We had talked about going closer to the information booth, and I think when I met with Rob on site, that was a more challenging location just in terms of the bank and the rocks that are there, but we're open to suggestions for sure as to where to put it and trying to find the best possible spot.
At the entrance to that parking lot, there's already a bit of a snarl of traffic. There's always people trying to walk across the road. And I think it could be a distractionary sort of thing. I just don't think that's the best spot.
I'm just wondering, like the mayor's concerned about it, and now when I think about it, like all these events in the summer, especially in the summer, they're so well attended. Right now, do you think with times the way they are, as the mayor says, do you think it's really necessary that we're spending roughly $20,000 on this at this time? Like how many events really are there?
I think part of it too isn't just the events, but if you notice on this sign, when council asks for things to be promoted, whether it's a Huskies game, whether it's half loads or things going on in town, landfill hours, things like that are just general public information. It has proven to be an excellent form of communication with the public, not just for events, but for all those other messages that you're trying to get out to the community. And the idea was just that this is just one entrance. We're not capturing everybody.
I don't know. So who's, same, well, when you put notice on this sign, it'll go on that sign too.
We can have it be separate. We can have the same notices, but then there's other
That's
things like,
more staff time again to do this all the time. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it or not, but I am maybe alone on this one. But anyway. So we can do it either way then.
yeah, you can do duplicate messaging or you can do separate messaging. It depends. Like for instance, when the boat races are there, you know, we put it up at both saying the boat launch is closed, but then at the other one, it's easy to put on alternate parking locations where the municipal lots are, things like that.
Okay, so I guess,
Do you guys want to hear from Rob again about why he thinks this is a better location? Or like, do you want the location looked at again?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Rob, are you there right now? I know that you're on the screen, but it doesn't mean you're at your desk.
Maybe a couple counselors could go on a walk
Yeah.
down. Are there a couple of counselors that might want to go for a walk down with staff to have a look?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I go, no problem.
somebody else go with Pat then, or Barry? Okay.
Okay, so I'll get in touch with Barry and Pat and Rob and arrange to meet and look at the best location.
Walt says he'll come too.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
So what kind of a resolution do we do now?
Are you okay to provide an exemption from section 4.3 of bylaw number 2022-39 for the flashing light? So then that way that part's done and then we can bring back the location, the proposed location.
Yeah.
That's the same thing we had to do with the other sign because of the blinking. Or just the lighting, our bylaw, we need an exemption from it, the same as we did with that one.
Hey, let's do something. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Mallory?
No, I didn't.
They're suggesting maybe we could pre-approve based on agreement on location.
Okay. So be resolved, the council approves the proposed location of the electronic sign.
No, it'd be, they'd approve the installation or the
installation?
procurement of the sign conditional on agreement with where it's located. Does that make sense? We can tighten that up.
We agree to the sign in principle, just settling on the location of it.
Yeah. And then we want to provide exemption.
And that way it can go straight to that next step for exemption if you
That's
guys
in
find a
this year's
spot.
budget, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
It's kind of funny the way it's worded. There might be a better way to word it. Be it resolved that council approves the installation of the electronic sign conditional on the agreement of the location, and further that council provides an exemption from section 4.3 of bylaw 2022-39. Is there a better way to say that?
Okay, I think. Okay.
I can note in the minutes too that staff and council are going to meet to decide. I just need a mover and seconder for that.
Barry and Pat, all in favor? Okay.
Maureen, I just got a quick one for Andrea here. Well, and for all the council, just as an FYI, the bike program there that we talked about coming out of the caboose is being launched tomorrow. They got their funding and the lights and everything else. So that's going to be a great thing down front. Also Steve Roberts, on behalf of the Rotary, reached out to me and wanted to know, Rotary's interest in putting up some benching, in front of the band shelter on the circle. And I'm bringing it forward to see what everyone's opinion is in terms of, additional cutting time around the benches, or whether that's something we want to do or what have you. So, in terms of where we take that from here, if everybody's okay with that, then you and maybe Jim Elstone's guys or whatever have a chat with it. I'm just putting it forward. So anyway.
Will he just come and make a presentation to council with like some sort of plan in place?
Well, yeah, number one, he want to know whether that was acceptable or not. And if it is, then he'll come forward with a plan, and Bob's your uncle. So
Yeah, I think he needs to come forward with a plan
Yep.
and make it as a presentation and go from there.
Yep, that's fine. As long
He
as,
can request delegation through me.
yeah, okay. I'm just making sure it wasn't a hard no and he wouldn't waste his time. So yeah, I agree.
So I think the question would be, if you put chairs there and people are sitting on the grass behind them, are they going to see by the chairs? I don't know.
I think the chairs would be, benches would be very, very back.
Okay. Oh, at the very back. Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have some benches back there already.
Yeah, with two, I think. Yeah.
I could want to make more of a horseshoe around just my own opinion was the very top end of it on that note. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to invite them here for the plan or something then? Okay. Okay, let's go next.
So we have advertising on the side of the Zamboni. We put out two requests for tender, or requests for quotes, tenders for the Zamboni advertising. So in the past, it's always just been the sides of the Zamboni. This year we have the sides and the front. So as you can see, the first report with the side, we had 2 bids come in, and the successful bid is Emerson Lumber at $2,001 per year. So for a total of $6,003 over the 3-year term. So they would be responsible for getting the sticker made that goes on the side of the Zamboni, and then our staff would put it on. And then for the front of the Zamboni, the successful bidder, we only had one bidder, and it was Timber Mart, and totaling at $1,000 per year for 3 years. So Timber Mart, again, they're responsible for creating the sticker and then bringing it and putting it on the front of the Zamboni.
Okay, so we got 2 resolutions in, Mallory?
Okay, first one, be it resolved that council receive and acknowledge this report concerning the results of the request for tender number 2025-REC-07, being a tender for the advertisement on the sides of the ice resurfacer at the AJ LaRue Arena / Community Center, and that council award the tender to Emerson Lumber Limited for a cost of $2,001 per year.
Okay, mover and seconder. Nancy and Barry, all in favor? Carried.
Okay, next one is be it resolved that council receive and acknowledge this report concerning the results of the request for tender 2025-REC-088, being a tender for the advertisement on the front of the ice resurfacer at AJ LaRue Arena / Community Center, and that council award the tender to Halliburton Timber Mart for a cost of $1,000 per year.
Okay, mover and seconder. Barry and Carm, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Andrea.
Thanks.
Okay, Carl and Haley.
Good morning, council. So we'll start with the building permit activity report. So March was a pretty slow month with regards to building permits. Any questions with regards to the report?
No, it's quite a difference, isn't there?
Yeah, no, it is slow for March.
Okay. Any questions for Carl? Okay, resolution then.
Be it resolved that council receive the March 2025 building permit activity report as information.
Mover and seconder. Pat and all in favor? Carry. Okay. Short-term rental application.
Okay, so at the last meeting of council requested that we look at some of the issues facing our applications and see if we come up with some options on making those easier. So the options, or sorry, the issues, starting with the most common issue is the with regards to the site plan. So it includes the lack of measurements from the high water mark, as well as the shore road allowance. So with regards to the shore road allowance, you essentially need the surveyor. If the pins aren't locatable with regards to the shore road allowance, you need a surveyor to identify where that shore road allowance is. It wasn't anticipated that we would go to that level for these short-term rentals, that you need to hire a surveyor to find out where your actual shore road allowance is. So again, we did put a lot of work into the expedited license of occupations. If your building was on the shore road allowance, those types of things, we put a lot of effort and work into those things. But the planning department did with regards to those processes. But there's an option to basically eliminate that if council is open to it. Now it would be suggested because we require more insurance if you are on the shore road allowance, that if we do get rid of that requirement for a shore road allowance, that we increase the overall insurance requirement for short-term rentals. Just seeing what your thoughts are on that first one.
Thoughts on that?
So Carla, did I hear you right that if you can't find your original pins, you need to hire a surveyor to know where the high water mark is? We can't go off a GIS map or anything like that?
Correct. Yeah, the GIS maps are not accurate enough to identify that. Especially with our ortho layering, that we can see pictures of like the actual photography of the land. It just doesn't line up perfectly. It's off by quite a bit.
So what about a previous survey that the house had? Would that not?
Yeah, so that would work for sure, but not everybody has that.
So then you're saying to get rid of it altogether, Carl?
Well, that's an option that council could consider, is just getting rid of the requirement for shore road allowances and bumping up the overall insurance, rather than requiring $1 million for the short-term rental and then $5 million for if there's a shore road allowance. You just bump it up to a $5 million overall insurance policy.
My comment, if they don't own it, to absolve what you just said there, get rid of that totally. And I don't know how much it is to bump insurance rates or from $1 million to $5 million, but on the same note, license of occupation down there, if they don't own it, and yeah.
I'm not sure how policies work, but I don't think you can insure land that you have no right to. So even if they bump it up to 5 million, is it really covering municipal land at that point?
It's got a yeah. So on the STR process, you've got to name the municipality as additional insured, where that won't be the case in this point. But we're not even going to recognize that they're on the shore road allowance in this case. We're just bumping up so with shared liability, if there was a life altering accident, especially with younger person, those amounts start getting up there pretty high. But if there's $5 million there to start with an insurance policy, and the municipality gets pulled in, yeah, we're probably going to have to pay some as well with those types of accidents. But
would we still have a license of occupation?
No. So we can get rid of that whole license of occupation requirement. And again, it's just an option that's available for council. We're not saying that it's the best option. It's an option to get rid of this hurdle that is, difficult to deal with from a staff perspective as well as the applicant's perspective. Now, I did provide a link to the planning report from the last council meeting where it talks about the legal opinion on the license of occupation. So hopefully council has had a chance to review that as if you want to make this determination, just because it's it does open us up to liability if there is a shore road allowance owned by the municipality, and we're allowing people to rent it out. But we've allowed people to rent it out before, and we're not really having issues in that perspective as well. So we have to consider that as well. But again, it's entirely up to council which way you want to go with this one.
I think license of occupation is going to be the best in my own mind. Like, again, yes, less liability for them, but also it's pretty straightforward. Staff's used to dealing with those and public can relate to it. And we're not looking for bars on the side of the lake and everything else. I think it's pretty straightforward on that note.
So the concept is the license of occupation is to determine where that shore road allowance is. Does the building actually come into it? Or are you saying if you don't own the shore road allowance that you have to enter into a license of occupation?
Correct. The latter.
Okay. So that's an option I didn't consider as well.
Does that make sense?
The only other option might be, Pat, is if somebody says, well, my insurance is going to be $2,000 more to go with the extra liability, I'll go with the license of occupation. But if it's only $200 for your insurance more, and it's $800 for a license of occupation.
The struggle is everybody's going to have a case by case analogy of who their carrier is for insurance.
Right.
So if you go with a straight license of occupation, it flatlines that whole process. So we're not hearing from somebody, I'm paying $2,000 and somebody's not on that. No, it's my own opinion on that to try and
So what you're saying is if they don't own the shore road allowance,
It's automatic. Yeah.
it's just an automatic license of occupation no matter where it is.
Correct.
Structures or not.
Yeah.
So is there any insurance in that case?
Yeah, so the insurance requirement would be the same as it currently is with regards to the I put a blurb in it in the report. So all STR applications require $2 million coverage, but if the building is on the shore road allowance, an additional $5 million liability insurance is required, and that specifically names the municipality as additional insured on that policy.
Are
Yes,
you,
Rebecca.
are you saying, Carl, then that the license of occupation would, no matter whether there's a building in the shoreline, they'd have to, no matter whether there was one there or not, they'd have to purchase a license of occupation?
That's correct. That's the option that Councillor Casey just floated around. And that's a possible option as well.
That's what I'm saying.
But we've been doing this since forever. People have been renting their places. And how many, like Carl said, we haven't had any so far. I know Touchwood, we don't want any, but
We have had claims where people have gotten injured in the shore road allowance, just so you know. I'm not going to talk about them, but that does happen. I just want council to be aware.
Valerie, can you answer this question? Were they successful? Not that.
So it depends on the situation, but I will say that the odds are not usually in the municipality's favor in court cases. In spite of the fact that we don't look at them, we don't maintain them in most cases if they can prove it's municipal land.
It's called deep pockets insurance.
Yeah, there's lots of problems with it because the taxpayer suffers, unfortunately, in a lot of the cases. But my concern would be from the insurance perspective is that if you up the amount and you do additional insured, I equate it to, I know where Carl's coming from, because I equate it to when we have an event in the park or something like that, and we tell people to name the municipality additionally insured because they're having an event in our park. My concern is us not looking at like knowing their structures or knowing their stuff in the shore road allowance and saying we're not looking at it. If someone gets hurt on a dock or by the water and the homeowner says, well, it's municipal land, and they kind of wash their hands of it, their insurance company might say, this actually didn't take place on your land. So we're not covering it. So that's the only thing I worry. Even if they list as additionally insured, it's not their land, it's not their liability. So that's where the concern from my perspective comes. It is an option, but you are taking on a risk, and that risk is with taxpayer money at the end of the day. So
Can Haley, can you answer me this question? How much now would somebody be paying if this license of occupation was included for license today?
If the license of occupation was included, I believe that in the expedited license of occupation system, there is a $500 application fee and then a $500 yearly fee for that license of occupation. And then the fee for the short-term rental is $500. So for the first year, it'd be $1,500 and then $1,000 every year thereafter.
Tammy's got one here where she said before the $1 million or five, was it one? Went from 1,964 to or 19, yeah, 19 to $5,513 with the $5 million liability.
Quite a bit.
That's a lot.
$500 difference.
Carl, question for you. When someone submits a site plan and they're actually not sure if their structures are in the water setback, do we go by RGIS when we don't have a survey to determine?
We'll use it to some extent. Now, I don't review those actual applications. Haley might be able to answer that question a little bit better.
Because it's something where staff could help applicants too. Like from what we see, our perspective, you are or you aren't, right? But I know it's an extra step. But Haley, do you have any comments on that?
So we will use the ortho to try and help out where we can. If it's close on the ortho, then we generally need to find a survey, but we will get applications where we can look to see where the high water mark generally is, and the cottage is 40 meters from the water. So we know that it's well outside of the SRA. But if it is close to that line, then we need additional information.
Right. So you put that on them to say you either need to get a surveyor or you need to find someone to run the line. I know that local surveyors were offering to do that work for not very much to run the shore allowance line, but it's an additional expense, right? It still is, even if you're just running one line.
Yeah, it's an additional expense and time. So the expenses, yeah, they I think they said it was going to be $300 to do that, which was really good. That's a good deal. But the timing, like we're looking at months maybe to get a survey done, especially during the busy season, like in the summer when everybody's requiring surveys to be done. So the time is the other standard on that. So.
Now, would someone get a conditional license while they were running that line, or would that hold it up, not knowing whether or not they had?
Well, they would need their license of occupation if it's on it, so they'd have to prove that it's
so they'd have to know.
Not on it to show that, yeah.
Right.
Any thoughts by council? We can't hear you if you're talking.
I'd like you to start again, Carl, and make it easier for us.
Okay, so the options that are currently on the table, again, Councillor Casey's option was actually a very good option, which was to basically require, if they do not own the shore road allowance, to require them to enter a license of occupation for a short-term rental license. Now, we do have the expedited process where we issue the short-term, license of occupation without them all having to go to council. et cetera. It's a lower cost as well. And with that, you need to have an additional $5 million liability coverage, naming the municipality as additional insured. And that's the current requirement for license of occupation. So that is the option, rather than requiring them to show that the building is or is not on the shore road allowance. Just if there's a shore road allowance that's owned by the municipality, that they have to automatically enter into a license of occupation.
I don't know.
So is that separate? Either you get the 5 million insurance and you don't have to get the license of occupation, or is it you have to get the license of occupation?
Both would apply. Yeah, you'd have to do both. So the
Hold on,
additional $5 million is part of the license of occupation process.
And Tammy's just saying here, you got somebody just said, how much was it? So I don't know. I'm just saying a $3,500 business for a license of occupation, another 500. $3,500 a year? I don't think you're gonna have many people buying licenses, folks.
Carl, is that 5 million from standard now? Is it $1 million right now for like?
No, it's currently $5 million is the amount in our license of occupation.
So people are doing it now.
Yeah, I'm to the point that I think we need more time with this thing. This is fairly complicated.
Yeah, you don't have to make a decision today for sure.
I think we should reach out to some insurance companies to see what the average Joe is paying, just to verify that.
Well,
If it's $200 difference or 2,000, get a better idea.
Normally, it's not that much. I don't know, maybe.
I've just heard
depends
from
on the company.
I've heard some of the residents down in Algonquin Highlands with that thing now that they can't even get the insurance that the Algonquin Highlands is wanting them through some policies that their homes have.
Well, can we reach out to the couple rental agencies that we were chatting about? Maybe run this by them a little bit. Barry, we're going to get insurance ideas from them, but also what's going to be fluid for everybody to make it work. We know what we need. We're not trying to run them out of business either. On the same note, we just got to find some common ground. That's all. And again, that insurance jump could be an anomaly because if everybody else is paying $5 million for a license of occupation now, we would have heard more than just that one report.
Yeah.
Like they'd been coming into the woodwork.
Yeah. Should we not be just involving these two companies in all these conversations? So they've got they're on the, they see what we don't see.
There are more than the two companies though. Like when we started talking about this probably 10, 15 years ago, companies even out of Uxbridge and places like that were calling us to be kept on the list because they're still renting places up here, right, from down in the city. So it's hard to catch. We have had quite a few over the years sessions with all the rental agencies and tried to work with them towards a lot of this.
That's what I'd like to do, is defer it.
We can just acknowledge receipt of the report right now. Does that work for you?
I think we should defer the whole report, Carl, and bring it back next month, and maybe councillors spend a little more time reviewing.
Will this affect the current STR stuff right now with anybody trying to get a license through?
No.
Okay. I don't want to hold that up either.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carl.
So I'll just continue with some of the other issues that we're finding with applications. So the second biggest issue is building code violations. This is mostly to do with their septic system. Too many bedrooms or too many beds, people sleeping in one bedroom. So again, not really much we can do to resolve this hurdle. I mean, we do have simple processes in place where they can complete a septic review to decommission the bedrooms. That seems to work fairly well. If people need more bedrooms, well, upgrade your septic system. That's the bottom line on that one there. With regards to zoning violations, that's the third biggest hurdle. We're dealing with includes structures within the water setback, bed and breakfast establishments, and additional dwelling units. So in this one here, we've addressed the water setback. So we're currently in a process to resolve that through planning applications. We have the bed and breakfast. So there's been a few of these applications. I don't know if it's if it's more than a handful, but where the owner wants to stay in the house while they're renting out the house. It's more of a bed and breakfast where you're not renting out the whole place. So, some of the options there are to allow bed and breakfast in more zones, possibly, where we don't have to then address it through you can't do that, or just open up the definition of bed and breakfast in the zoning bylaw. Again, these are all additional planning applications that would have to go through zoning bylaw amendments. So not an easy task, but Haley, would there be more than like maybe a handful of these applications that we're dealing with?
I couldn't give you a real number because for the most part, we've gotten phone calls about it because there's people who are saying, oh, I only rent out one bedroom a few times a year. Do I have to pay $500? And then I have to go in and explain to them that they actually can't operate. So we haven't gotten any actual applications in this situation because I usually tell them not to bother applying because they're going to be wasting their application fee.
Okay.
But I've had conversations with maybe 10 people that couldn't operate in the way that they have been.
Okay.
So Carl, question for you there on the zoning, like say there was a cottage, because this is a bit of an example in Halliburton Lake, there's a cottage owner who wants to rent her basement out. She has a walkout basement, has a couple of bedrooms in there, wants to rent it out. So what is the zoning like up on most of those cottage lots?
Yeah, so it's the only place that you can have a bed and breakfast establishment is on a rural type 1 lot. Those are those, well over 10-hectare lots, huge lots. So that's the only zone that's permitted to have a bed and breakfast, unfortunately. So
you're saying if we change the zoning on some of these seasonal residential places, cottages, then they could rent them out as bed and breakfasts.
correct. Yeah, they can have more of a be more of a bed and breakfast establishment.
Wouldn't be STR, it would have to be bed and breakfast.
Correct. Yeah, we wouldn't give them an STR license. They would be a bed and breakfast establishment.
Right.
So, and in those cases, like with the owners on site during that time, like those places aren't going to have wild parties, those types of things. So they'd be better run than, or better maintained, monitored than.
So let's say the septic, as long as they had their original septic they wouldn't be required for another septic inspection like an STR is. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, they're not required to follow any additional rules for bed and breakfast.
But they can't have kitchen facilities, correct?
So typically with a bed and breakfast, they're being cooked, so, breakfast or dinner or whatever else. So the owner is cooking a meal as well. But if it's an ADU, that brings us down to the next one. So if it is let's say a basement apartment, that's an additional dwelling unit, which is addressed in our next component. So the ADU is the next one, where if you have an additional dwelling unit on the property, whether it's an additional building or a basement apartment, those are not permitted to be short-term rentals. Both in our zoning bylaw and our short-term rental bylaw do not permit it, because those are developed to increase the long-term housing supply. So to permit that, the ADU or STR would be the bylaws would need to be amended to be able to accommodate that. Now, with an ADU, you would be permitted a second kitchen where somebody can, the renters can cook for themselves, whatever else. But
are we in the process of trying to change that right now, or
I don't believe so. I don't think that's part of the instructions our director of planning has been given with regards to zoning changes.
Jeff, are you here? Can you comment?
Thought we talked about that.
Yeah, we did. There he is.
I am present. What can I do for you?
About the ADU amendment, council requested that come forward, correct?
It was to permit additional dwelling units to be used for rental purposes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something I'm working on.
Okay.
I also think bed and breakfasts, are they permitted anywhere not on waterfront that's residential?
No, just in rural type 1 zones.
I thought it
No,
was,
they're permitted in most zones except for waterfront. So
Yeah.
they're even permitted in the WR1 waterfront zones, which are typically around the village.
Are they? Okay.
But they're permitted in rural residential, suburban residential, even in town in the urban residential zones.
which opens it up for quite a few.
Basically anywhere but waterfront.
Okay.
Or do they have to be licensed then, Jeff, if that's the case, or no? As long as they're zoned, or what?
That's a better question for the building department. Do you have licensing requirements for bed and breakfast?
No, there's no licensing requirements for bed and breakfast establishments.
Good to hear.
So that's a good note for a lot of, I'm sure Haley's redirected people that way too, because for a lot of people that might work better for them.
Right. It's good.
I think everybody would start thinking about bed and breakfast versus trying to get a short-term rental license. When you think of 500, 520, let's say it's $2,000 for your insurance a year. Holy.
Yeah, the thing with the bed and breakfast is that the owners are on site during the rental. So a lot of the STRs are, properties that have been purchased for that purpose of renting them out as an STR, not as a bed and breakfast. But yeah, there could be some that change to bed and breakfast establishments.
Would council like to receive the report for now, or do they have further feedback for staff, or?
I think we should receive it for now.
I think we should receive it for now, but I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but whether we let the public know that the clarification on those bed and breakfasts. It sounded like to me that we were telling people they can't do it when maybe we can. Is that correct?
No, I think Haley's had quite a few people. Haley, sorry, I'll let you comment. But you've probably had a few people that you've directed towards bed and breakfast who thought that they had an STR.
Yeah, so anytime we receive any information where somebody is operating something that falls under the definition of a bed and breakfast, we check their zoning. If it's permitted in that zone, then we add them to an exemption list. So they may still come up when we pull data from Airbnb, but we remove them from any sort of enforcement action. We've only had a handful where they're in a WR3 zone, so we can't direct them that way, but we have added quite a few properties to our exemption list, and we did put a blast out on social media about it.
Thanks, Haley. Jeff, where are we at with the ADUs then, changing that? What stage are we at with that?
I'm still just reviewing the provincial policy on that, but I hope to come back next month with something for council.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll read a resolution to receive. Be it resolved that council receive the review of the short-term rental application hurdles report as information.
Move in second. Pat and Walt, all in favor? Okay, Haley, your report then?
Yes. Okay. So the bylaw report for this month, the number of complaints does look much higher. As I mentioned last month, we did move towards enforcement for properties that are advertising a short-term rental without a license. So we found 119 properties that have not applied and don't have a license that we issued paperwork to this month. We're already seeing quite a bit of feedback. By the time this report was written, we had received 6 new applications or had ads deactivated, and we were continuing to see those numbers increase. The next phase of enforcement for STR is going to look at properties that have applied, and we've requested additional information, and they haven't replied to us for over a month, and they're continuing to operate. So we'll be circling back on those properties.
Okay, I guess, any questions there? Okay. Okay, Mallory.
Be it resolved that council accepts the bylaw report for April 2025 as information.
Mover and seconder. Barry and Walt, all in favor? Okay. I don't know what to do here now. We got the closed session gentleman's back at the back there waiting, and whether we should, what do you think? Should we go into close and hear him? How long, sir, would you be with your presentation? Okay.
Probably somewhere around hour and a half, 2 hours. No question. Lots of questions.
Okay.
Or if you want to shorten it down, you just let me know.
Okay. You said 2 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I guess we might as well, do you mind waiting for a while here? Okay. All right, well, we'll carry on. We'll get Rob here and Dave and go through these reports, and then we'll have to break for lunch, and then we'll, okay. Roads report, Dave?
Yep. Good morning, council. The roads maintenance status report for March 2025. We had emergency washouts due to melt off and then substantial amounts of rain in various locations. Brushing and tree removal, obviously during the ice storm, that was substantial also. Ditching, spot ditching for drainage support. Grading, we've been doing spot grading. During the ice event, obviously, we were doing a little bit of high winging for drainage also, and ice plating where need be. So it was a mixed batch. Gravel resurfacing for washouts with backhoe and grader. And that's all I have for today.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, resolution.
Be it resolved, the council receives this report outlining roads maintenance activities for March 2025 as information.
Mover and seconder, Nancy and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Request for winter maintenance.
Yes, good morning, Mayor, members of council. So we did receive a request to maintain Epic Road on a year-round basis. Currently, we maintain it in the summer only. If council wishes, we can dig into this a little bit deeper, but at a very top level, Epic Road is in a limited services zone, and it's quite a narrow road compared to others. Our asset management plan has it listed at about 4 meters wide when we require 7 meters.
Yeah, so we're not recommending that then.
No.
I don't think we should either. Okay, Mallory, resolution?
Murray, just a second. Rob, have you went up, has anybody went up and just looked at the road and met with these people? Because I did speak to them, and their concerns was there's a road beside them that's the exact same road. I haven't been up there because it's far into Knees, and to see if if their complaints are valid, or like they told me that the road beside them is the exact same road. The truck goes in, turns around, and comes back, and it's a circle. It's not they have to go in and turn around and come back. Is that correct?
I believe they're speaking of Pine Point, and yes, we already maintain Pine Point. But it's not unlike another road up in the area, Champlain. For years and years, we didn't maintain Champlain in the winter, and the ratepayers in the area actually spent money to upgrade it, so we started plowing it.
So the road does need some upgrading on our cost or their cost? Like if they wanted us to do it, is it a private road or is it a municipality road?
It's summer maintained road, so we maintain it in the summer. The problem is it's quite narrow, so it would have to be widened out if you want to take it on.
So is that something like we did at the other road that Pat was involved in? If the ratepayers want to, if they want to improve the quality of the road, then we would assume it? Or is
That would be that would be a council decision. This one's a little trickier because we do maintain it during the summer months.
Okay.
So if council wanted them to foot the bill or do a cost sharing, that's up to council. But ultimately, it does need some work if you want to take it on.
Could we go look at it at least and give us report back to us on what you think it would take, and just for peace of mind, so when they come back to me, I can say, look, this is why we won't do it exactly, and what the cost could be for to split it or on there or on us or whatever, just so we would know.
Yeah, if that's what council wishes.
Did you say it was private?
No.
No.
How long a road is it, Rob?
Not very. I would say a few hundred meters.
Okay.
We need a report back because we don't know if there's a turnaround or what there is on it. whether we can go around on the other one or
How many cottages, please? 11?
can't be very many. Okay, so we're gonna get some feedback on that.
So, council wants staff to provide a report on the work needed. Would you be able to bring that road up to municipal standard?
We'd have to take a closer look depending on.
Okay, well, I'll just put that in it for now and we'll see. So I've got be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the correspondence from the residents of Epic Road and Blossom Lane regarding year-round municipal maintenance of Epic Road, and further direct staff to provide a report on the work needed to bring the road up to municipal standard.
We wouldn't necessarily be bringing it to municipal standard, would we? I don't know. Oh,
I
no.
guess they can report on that and see what they can do.
Okay,
I just need a mover and seconder for that.
Carm and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. Speed reduction request on Harmony Road.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we did receive a request to reduce the speed on Harmony Road from a 50 to a 30 kilometers per hour. The recommendation is to deny the request, and the reasoning for that is we did receive a study from Paradigm Transportation Solutions back in January 2024, and their recommended posting for that road was in fact 50 kilometers per hour.
Okay, and we've done the study then. Okay, resolution then, Noah?
Be it resolved that council receives a request for a speed reduction along Harmony Road as information and that council deny the speed reduction request.
Mover and seconder. Carmen. Got a seconder? So you do want to reduce speed then, do you? Well, you can do it on every road. You've got to. Yeah.
It's the same as the one in Guilford. They want it lowered, lowered, lowered. But then nobody obeys the speed limits. They put the signs up, tell you how fast they're going, and people still speed. It's up to the OPP, not the sign.
As has been going down Wonderland, Wigamog, many of the side roads, and I think we need to further investigate those cameras and go into the AMP system for recovering the fines. They're the same fines as a Highways Act, only the money comes to the municipality. And it's an electronic sign. So I think we need to really investigate that, get a portable one. We can move it where it needs to be.
Yeah, as long as there's the key is enforcement.
Yeah.
The sign doesn't do the damn thing. It's enforcement's the most
Well,
important.
as soon as that camera clicks,
That's right.
that'll be enforcement. You only need a couple people per road to get.
And this is where Walt needs to bring it back to
get
the
it.
police board too, right? When you're there, that, the public's upset with the speed, and it just goes upon deaf ears, unfortunately.
I don't know a road we've got where people don't speed on.
Oh.
So what are we gonna do?
Enforcement. It's got to
Move the electronic signs that send out the penalties.
But
They would pay for
say they
themselves.
just go by the sign and then they step on it. So I don't know.
They
I don't
would
know
get a
what the
ticket
answer
in
is.
Going
this
to
case,
a
though.
lot before
That's
they
been a
before they
problem for
figure out
50
that they have
years.
to step on it.
Not easy to solve, I can tell you that. So I had a mover, do I have a seconder? Okay, well then. Okay, do whatever you want.
Okay, so council wants to go against the speed study and reduce the speed to 30 kilometers an hour on Harmony?
That's just
What,
joke, this is a joke.
excuse me for jumping in here. All right, why don't we wait till I'll present this at police board meeting. It's coming up very soon here. And I'll be able to get something back to you in regard to, there's got to be a lot of other communities that they can have examples of that where might work or doesn't work.
They'll give you
If you're
feedback on
gonna,
these
if you're gonna
cameras.
put that system in and you issue tickets, then that probably would slow them down.
Dropping from a 50 to 30 on the sign, people are going to do the exact same speed they did yesterday and just ignore the sign. I'm not saying that it's not a bad idea to slow them down, but it isn't going to slow them down. Like Nancy said, the camera will slow them down, or the police sitting there will slow them down while the police are sitting there. But as soon as they leave, everybody just speeds back up.
You know that's what happens, but anyway. Okay, so
Rob has a point here.
Yeah, I just want to clarify too that Harmony Road is a dead end road. So, I mean, chances are if anybody's speeding, it's the people that live along the road.
And then they will slow down once they get nailed a couple times.
I think. But where did we end up with this now? Geez, this is getting ridiculous.
Walt suggested that we just receive. I don't know if we can get a mover and seconder on that.
Well, do we have a, both hands, thank you.
Okay, so we'll do it to receive for now. And then who do I have as a mover and seconder?
That and Malt.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, Royal Canadian Legion pedestrian crossover.
Yeah, so this one may garner a bit more of a conversation. We did receive a request for a pedestrian crossover in the area of the Canadian Legion Branch 129 in the area of the community center. Staff are recommending that we deny this request based on the likely deficient sight lines in the area. There is a grade on the road. There's two sharp bends on either side of the Legion. The proximity of emergency vehicles passing through the site generally with lights and sirens on. And from experience from a different development on Gardens Retirement, we have spoken with the ministry on these before, and very similar situation. We asked about putting a crossover in front of Gardens Retirement, and the answer was simply no from their perspective. And that was due to the alignment of the road on either side of Gardens Retirement. If council does wish to proceed with this study, we do have a quote for about $6,500 that could be done in 2025. That number is based on the fact that the company is already working for us, doing some intersection analysis already. If you want to defer it, that number will go up likely to, I'm guessing, around $10,000 in 2026.
Oh, what's the wish?
I'll make it worse. Rob, was that present study including anything across some hook, line and sinker there to get people across the road there or no?
No, it was for intersection analysis on the connecting link. So the signalized intersection in the center of town and the intersection in front of town. In front of town hall.
Yeah.
I do believe we previously, I think on 2 occasions, done like the traffic study to have a crosswalk down by hook, line and sinker. And it's partly because it was too close to the intersection, the grade, and it was a county road is why it was declined. So I really can't imagine that a provincial highway with, intersections on both sides and a grade is, I'm just not sure that it's worth that sort of money to, when we already have history and experience with just the county road to now go to the highway. I'm not sure that how much we should have to pay for that.
So like, are we saying right, the entrance coming out here at the arena?
Yeah.
Like right across there?
Yeah. Across the Legion, yeah.
Yeah, not the front door of the Legion, we're up just
Across the highway.
That's where the request is, but that's not to say where it would end up.
I think it'd be really great if you put it right across where the entrance to the arena is, because that's where most people park is in the arena and they walk. And I don't know why we can't put a flashing light when they come around that corner. And we're dealing with a lot of seniors here. Like there's a lot of seniors that go to the Legion there. And I think I'd definitely be agreeable to it if of course we could get it passed by the MTO. But I just think that it's a big issue. You see them walking across there, and you should be slowing down anyway. You just come around that corner, and if there's a flashing light reminding you, I don't know. That's my opinion. Thank you.
I guess I got a tendency to agree with Walt, because I spent the weekend at a hockey tournament more last year, and with the elections, with the advance polls in the hockey tournament, I purposely watched at times, and there would be nothing to see 15 to 20 people crossing that street almost all times. And I don't know, maybe the MTO, I think they basically say no to everything, but I don't know. It does concern me. I don't know what we can do, but I'm definitely got some concerns. And I mean, this was an adult hockey tournament, not a kid, but it would be the same situation with the kids tournament, maybe worse because you got little kids running across. So anyway,
Or
I
event
don't know what we can do, but it is a concern for sure.
I'm with you and on both sides of the community though, here and down the hook. Like we gotta, if town's evolving here, we gotta find a way to get these people across the road so same thing with Main Street. Like it's nice to have a single path going across the road in front of Remax there because that's where people can cross the road. There's nothing worse than a dump truck going up the road and you're going dead slow and people are popping out of cars all over the place up there on that note. But anyway, what it's going to boil down to is someone's going to get killed or hit by a car. And then we've done our best to try and get people across the road. The MTO says, no, it's not really my problem. People should be watching what they're doing. I don't know what to say other than I'm loathing the day when we have to deal with that as council because, you know, we're reading the play of trying to be proactive here and they're saying, well, you're 5 feet too short or there's too many cars coming into this entrance. To me, it's people driving and people walking on the same note and totally controllable on both sides. So when the argument is being made, well, you're a little bit too close to this intersection, that's a calculation. You got to be dealing with people in common sense, both the driver and the walker on that note. So to me, if we do this and we endorse the crosswalks, that shows due diligence on council's part. We've done it. Where are we going next? If the MTO says no or the county says no,
When you're talking the whole town, you might want to have Rob get a different direction there, because I know before when we did it, part of the decisions were based on where potential traffic lights are going to end up as the traffic increases. So at the other end of town, it was, as Nancy mentioned, at the Cedar Avenue, but they were exploring lights there.
the problem with that though, Tamara, is that we've been waiting for lights for 10 years at Dump Road, and that's going to be another 5 years yet.
Well,
Yeah,
they're saying they have it designed and ready to go.
Sure,
So,
sure.
but I agree, it can be a slow process, but one thing will impact the other. So if you're only looking, let's even say here, if we only looked at this stretch in front of the Legion here, and we don't look at the stretch on this side going up to the lights, then we could impact, right? I think that's where we got to rely on the engineers stuff
Well,
too.
what's
'cause
going
you
on at the
can slow down
intersection?
traffic coming this way.
What's going on at the intersections where these lights are going to be is going to be contained at that intersection.
Yeah.
Another 400 meters up the road is going to be a crosswalk. We watch for it on that note, right?
Yeah.
I've been through other towns before. They got them all over the place.
Yeah, I'm just saying it might be worth, because the council has paid for a traffic study before to review those. Maybe it's time for an update to that based on new traffic counts. Might help you make those long-term decisions.
Well, the Legion president did say he was reaching out to MTO, didn't he? So he's doing that. So he'll have an answer from them.
Rob, do you have any comments on that in terms of the overall?
No, just in the fact that, I mean, it seems to be getting to be a pretty big kettle of fish. That's all. So I don't know if we wanted to do, this is where like a whole transportation master plan would come in handy, but we seem to be piecemealing this a little bit. Do we want to expand this to cover the whole town? I mean, we're going to be talking big dollars for sure.
Well, I think we've talked about putting sidewalks down to the entrance into the parking for the docks. Yeah, that's what I mean.
We already did that.
So we got the sidewalks there. So if we're gonna put a crosswalk in, wouldn't we put it up at the corner there?
I think this is where we rely on the traffic engineers as well, though, so that you don't end up into a liability situation if something happens that you do. At least you're following the traffic counts and the traffic flow and.
Well,
I think the areas of most liability is what's critical here. So to me, again, we can keep kicking the ball down the road here, but anyway, a traffic master plan study sounds like a year and about 60 grand in my own mind. But to me, if we're able to do these couple crosswalks, I feel like 20 apiece would be totally in line with making that work, but that's
You're
just
about
me.
80, based on the last one put in, it was about 80 to 100,000 a crosswalk. You can't anymore just put them across. They have to be full crosswalks now with the proper lighting and am I speaking the truth here, Rob? You want to correct me if I'm wrong? Okay.
No, that's right. And my memory's pretty terrible at times, but I want to say the county was, as you say, 60 or 70 grand years ago when they put that one in at Halbium, but I could be wrong on that.
Well, it was more than that. It was more than that. I think it was 90 time they got done. Anyway, what we can do, we can be positive here and do something or study something. This one's right now is on the burner, right? Hook, line, and sinker. Well, we got that electronic sign going. We've got a whole lot of stuff there going on. We need more parking. So maybe there's, I don't know, we need to study that too. I guess the county would study that, wouldn't they? No, that's ours.
It's our road, yes.
And you said it'd be how much for us to include that? You thought 10,000?
If we put it off till next year, I mean, the quote we have is going to go up, obviously. They're already here in the area. That's why they presented the number they did. If you want to do another intersection, I would guess double the number they presented.
I'd promote doing it this year, Rob. It's my own opinion, of course. But
So we're looking at the 65, so 13 grand then for the 2 spots, you're thinking, Rob?
That's my guess, yes.
Well, I don't like spending 13 grand for another study, but I still worried about the pedestrian traffic, so.
I wonder, can somebody reach out to the fellow from the Legion and see when he expects to hear back, or if he can chase the MPO a bit?
I think,
Just to get that information back.
yeah, I don't know. How
I think Rob would, or the engineers would also talk to them as part of the process, so it's probably not that vital.
Okay,
So before we move on, this would be $13,000. That is not in my budget currently. So can I suggest, in the absence of an operational surplus, we draw this from the reserve at year end?
if there's no other place to get it, I guess. We probably won't have the results of that till next year anyway, will we? I wonder if we put a couple of signs down at hook, line, and sinker that said pedestrians here or slow pedestrian crossing, at least give people a chance both ways.
I think
They come out of town there and they just fly off the main street.
I think in the short term, Murray, we're best to do that sooner than later.
Yeah.
I would defer to Rob for comment, but I think putting pedestrian crossing lines with the proper pedestrian crossing is going to create a much more reliable situation.
At least we've made an attempt to slow them down.
I'm not trying to spend more of that restaurant's money, but the lighting there is very poor at night. Like when you're walking from the restaurant across the street or going, it's very dark, very, very dark. So, well, are we going to put the lighting in, or should they put some lighting in it's black there. It's really dark.
Sidewalks and road crossings are our game.
You mean there's not a street light there, is that what?
People are leaving the restaurant or they're coming to the restaurant, so the traffic's coming. But when you're driving there, you see it or not, but it's very dark through there.
So this is probably the third location. The other location in town that public has asked for consistently for a crosswalk is down by the old Shoppers. What's it called? Down there. So there have been, I think that's the only other one where it's been a constant coming back and forth, Rob. That's right in town.
Yeah, it's been a few years since we've had a request down at the other end of town.
So where are we now? This has got to be the worst I've ever seen, I think.
So I think you were down to asking Rob to do the study on the 2 locations in this current year based on around $13,000 coming out of reserves.
What, do we have a resolution like that? Mallory?
Yeah, I've got one. Would you just call it the reserve, or is there a better way to word that? What, Rob?
Can
Funded from reserves? From,
we leave it generalized like that, Barbara?
yeah, Barbara, what do you think?
Roads Capital Reserve Fund.
From the Roads Capital Reserve Fund. Okay, let's do that. So I'll read what I've got. Be it resolved that council directs for a study to commence for the possibility of pedestrian crossovers in the following locations. Adjacent to the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 129 for pedestrians crossing Mountain Street, and adjacent to Hook, Line, and Sinker for pedestrians crossing Highland Street. I'm right on that, right? Yeah, okay. And further directs that the estimated $13,000 be funded from the Roads Capital Reserve Fund.
I just have a question. Rob, do you know when the last study was done for Hook, Line, and Sinker area? Because it was done within the last 10 years, but do you know when?
I'm thinking it was 10 years ago. I'm thinking 2015.
Okay.
Okay. Did we have a mover and seconder there?
Not yet.
Barry and Carm, all in favor?
The only other thing, and I'm not trying to delay us, was there was a request for yellow painting, line painting near the accessible parking spot from the Legion. Does council have thoughts on that, or do they need comments from Rob?
Just the line painting, you mean?
Yeah, just in front of the accessible spot in front of the Legion.
Yeah, well, I think we wanted it done.
Okay.
Just no parking though.
I'll note that in the minutes.
Okay, are we ready for Rob now?
Yep.
Rob, the capital project update number 3.
Yes, thank you. So not much of an update here. There's the second item has been struck out. We'll be discussing that one next. As far as the connecting link engineering, the geotechnical work is underway. The intersection analysis is underway. And along Highland Street, they've started surveying for potential sidewalk replacement in 2026.
Okay. The resolution then, Mallory?
Be it resolved that council receives the report capital project update number 3 as information.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Nancy, all in favor? Carry. Okay, I have 1 3-cab and chassis.
Yeah, so this is an update from a proposal, sorry, of in 2024. So in August of 2024, we sought and received pre-approval for a cab and chassis 1-ton truck. October 22nd, results were brought forward. Council deferred their decision to November 27th and opted for the second bidder, which was a GMC cab and chassis. We just got written confirmation this month that they are canceling the order. They are unable to order anything from the factory at this time. So in light of that, we are seeking approval from council to receive 3 quotations for a standard pickup truck, so not a cab and chassis, something that's either on the lot or in transit, and just outfitting that with a slide-in sander and dump body and snowplow, and worry about the class 3 cab and chassis next year. Hopefully we can get something ordered up.
That's strange. Because of the tariffs, I wonder?
I'm not sure. They thought the order board was going to open in March and it got pushed off, and for one reason or another, they're unable to order anything.
Okay, resolution then, Mallory.
Be it resolved that council receives this report providing an update on RFP 2024 PW 18, being a proposal for the supply of 1 class 3 cab and chassis as information, and that council directs staff to obtain 3 separate quotations for the new class 3 for 1 new class 3 pickup truck with on the lot or in transit status, and that council authorize staff to award the purchase of the new pickup truck in accordance with the municipal procurement policy.
mover and seconder. Carmen and Walt, all in favor? Carried. Okay,
And last but not least, this is just a corrective report on my part. When we purchased the new backhoe loader and loader mounted snow blower, I mistakenly said the funding was coming from reserves and the direction through budget was through debenture. So it's just a corrective report.
well, that's been corrected then. Okay.
I'll read that resolution. Be it resolved that council receive this report on funding correction for the acquisition of one new backhoe loader and one new loader mounted snow blower as information, and that the purchase of the new backhoe loader and new loader mounted snow blower be funded through debenture.
Okay, mover and seconder. Carm and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so just trying to look at where we are on the agenda here. I think probably because of what we got coming up, maybe we should go into closed session, deal with the integrity commissioner and come back and finish up finance and, I don't know, are we? Okay. But we'll have lunch and then we'll take a half hour for lunch. And is lunch coming in? Okay.
Would you like me to read a resolution to go into close so we could do kind of a lunch and learn situation?
Good idea.
Okay, let me just pull it, 1 sec. Actually, I'll do it through here. So be it resolved, the council adjourn its regular meeting at 12:05 p.m. to discuss matters pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act pertaining to a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. That's a property taxation update. And to discuss matters pursuant to 239 subsection 3.1 of the Municipal Act as amended for the purpose of educating or training members on the roles of council and staff, meeting rules, the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, and the Code of Conduct.
Okay, mover and seconder. Pat and Walt, all in favor? Carried.
Perfect.
Okay, okay. Get Barbara there.
Okay. So the first report in finance is the March 2025 check summary report. Total disbursements were
Okay, so we need a resolution on that. Carm and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Barbara, you
we
wanna get-
ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first report is the check summary report for March 2025. Total disbursements were $5,519,832. And so March did see the quarterly transfer payments go out to the county and the boards of education for a total of $4,076,000. Payroll was $278,698.
And I've got the mover and seconder on that, but I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the March 2025 check summary, and I've got Carm and Pat moving on that one.
Okay, Barbara? Quarterly.
Okay, the next, yeah. So metered sewage at the end of the first quarter is 933,569 gallons. That is down over last year Q1 by about 5%. And again, it's based on actual usage from our metered users.
Nobody at Pine Stone either. That makes a difference.
I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the quarterly metered sewage readings report for the period ending March 31st, 2025.
Mover and seconder, Pat and Barry. All in favor? Okay, carried.
Okay, the next report we have is the Section 357 tax applications, and we have a write-off municipal portion of $262.41, and that's a result of a demolition.
Okay.
I'll read that. Be it resolved that council authorizes tax adjustments for applications made under Section 357 of the Municipal Act as amended as follows. Municipal portion, $262.41. County portion, $197.06. Education portion, $119.29.
Okay. Mover and seconder. Walt and Nancy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next.
Okay, we have the revenue and expenditure report at March 31st. Just a few items to comment on. Tax revenue considers our interim tax billing. And then under our transportation, given our winter being very active, winter maintenance is it's very active. So you'll see there's about $711,000 in winter maintenance, of which approximately $423,000 is represented by snow plowing. And then you'll notice under the capital expense that reflects the 2 tandem trucks we took delivery of in January, that there is a $736,000.
How much was the winter maintenance over?
It's not over, it's within the budget, but we budgeted, for instance, on snow plowing $560,000, and we've already absorbed 75% of that, the $423,000.
Okay. Glad to hear it's not over. Okay.
No.
I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the revenue and expenditure report at March 31st, 2025.
Mover and seconder. Gary and Carm, all in favor? Okay.
Okay, so we have the 2024 annual report on investments in cash management, and in keeping with Ontario Regulation 438/97, which requires a municipality to adopt a statement of investment policies and goals. So as a recap of 2024 activity, the municipality closed out the year with a cash balance of just over $4.1 million. The average yield on cash balances was 4.98%, generating interest income of $332,000. Short-term investments, which are guaranteed investment certificates, we had just over 2.4 million. The average rate of return was 4.99% for $122,278 in interest income. And then we also have some long-term investments held in guaranteed investment certificates, and that is 2.5 million, and the interest is recognized when the investment comes due. So as a total, cash, investment, short-term and long-term, just over 9.1 million for interest income earned of $556,819.
Not all bad considering the times. Oh, okay. That's good, Barb. Mallory?
Be it resolved, the council acknowledges receipt of the 2024 annual report on investments and cash management as information.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Walt, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Barb. Okay. Information from Eastern Ontario Wardens.
Yeah, so they've just asked that we put this on the agenda for council's information. So if council's okay, I can read a resolution that acknowledges receipt.
I think we're okay, aren't we? Yeah, we are.
Be it resolved, the council acknowledges receipt of the April 2025 newsletter from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus.
Mover and seconder. Nancy and Tammy, all in favor? Okay.
Next report here is the bylaw for the alternative voting method for the 2026 municipal and school board election. The report from this was on last month's agenda.
That's the report you gave us the other day, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You want to?
I'll read it.
Yeah.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-40, being a bylaw to provide for use of an alternative voting method for the 2026 municipal and school board election, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signing the corporate seal attached thereto.
Mover and seconder. Harry and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next.
This next one's Tamara's.
Okay, this is a workplace violence and harassment policy update. We had to update it to include some new definitions that are in the act. We've been doing over the last year some training with different staff groups regarding workplace violence and harassment and conflict resolution to sort of support this. So we may be bringing some training to council as well this year to review the policy in detail. Does anyone have any questions about it?
It's a lot of work, isn't it? It's got to be done every year.
Yep. Council needs to review it every year.
Okay. Okay, resolution then?
Be it resolved that council adopts policy number 46, workplace violence and harassment policy, as written.
Mover and seconder. Nancy and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay, now we got Jeff and Chris.
Yes, thank you. So the first one on the agenda here is 10A, which was the one that council heard this morning was the zoning bylaw amendment, and that was deferred to allow the applicant time to work with staff for the compliance issues on the property.
Right. So we agreed to that this morning, so we should be able to do it. Mallory,
So I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that council defer bylaw 2025-41, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2005-120 for the lands of Camp Adelaide Limited, which consists of part lots 29 to 31, concessions 4 and 5, and the geographic township of Dysart, municipality of Dysart et al., which would change the zone on the subject property from rural type 1 zone to waterfront residential type 4L zone, and that council directs staff to work with the registered owners of the benefiting waterfront properties to address the compliance issues to the satisfaction of the municipality prior to proceeding with the zoning bylaw amendment.
Okay, mover and seconder. Nancy and Walt, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Road closing, that's deferred too, right?
Yeah, staff recommend that this file be deferred until a registered survey is provided.
Right.
I'll read that if council's okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, be it resolved that council defers the bylaw to close and convey a portion of the original road allowance in front of lot 7 concession 2 in the geographic township of Havelock until a registered survey is provided, and further that council defers the bylaw to deem lot 8 registered plan 378 in the township of Havelock not to be within a plan of subdivision for the purpose of section 50 subsection 3 of the Planning Act.
Okay, moving second. Carmen, Barry, all in favor? Carried. Okay.
This next item is an application to purchase a shore road allowance in front of the lands of Keys on Little Redstone Lake. Subject to any questions about the report, staff seek direction to process the application.
So we're just processing the application now. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, resolution then.
Be it resolved that council approves for processing application L07-RO-2025-004 by Mr. and Mrs. Keys to purchase a portion of the shore road allowance along the shore of Little Redstone Lake in front of their property in Lot 24, Concession 1, the geographic township of Havelock. These lands are declared surplus. And further that council directs the bylaw enforcement department to review the potential zoning compliance issues of the deck and the potential building permit requirements for the deck, building and screen porch. Dwelling and screen porch.
Okay, mover and seconder. Pat and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, reports.
I have one more file.
It's not.
It's 10D.
Okay. Oh, yes, it did. We
And
jumped.
I'll just be real quick. So yeah, on November 28th, I attended a workshop in Huntsville related to integrated watershed management, specifically for the Muskoka River watershed. A small portion of the watershed is located within Dysart, but in the vicinity of the Coagama Lake. I guess I'm just here to staff seek direction from council regarding municipal participation going forward in this group.
He didn't get a very good response from us the day he made the presentation. It's not enough in our township to get involved in, I don't think. And again, it's more staff time and eventually costs. So I don't know. I don't know what you think, but
Nope, that's fair enough.
that's what we decided anyway as a group here, so. That's good, Jeff.
Okay.
Do you want the resolution to direct that staff opt out of the Muskoka River Watershed Consortium then, so it's a clear staff direction?
We're not very involved with it.
Okay. That's a simple one there, so the resolution reads, be it resolved that Dysart et al. Council directs staff to opt out of the Muskoka River Watershed Consortium.
Mover and seconder. Carmen, Pat, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now we're on to the Harcourt Community Call. Okay. Matt Guilford.
Murray, we had a meeting last night. Nothing really come out of it, but we did have a meeting 2 weeks ago for the Canada Day volunteers. We had 2 people show up, so I don't know if we're gonna find some more between now and then, or Canada Day's gonna be a wash and way of the future, right? But still fireworks, so there's still go.
That's the big attraction anyway. The other's a lot of work, isn't it?
Fireworks is a lot of
people,
work too, but yeah, the Canada Day itself is a lot of work.
Rails End, is there?
There's a report in the agenda. They've had their draft building condition report, so they were going to go over that with Andrew and Rob Parrish. They've got a summer grant approval, so they'll be having a 8-week position of a student or staff member. They've got lots of activities going on, and all their exhibitions and the calendar of events are at www.railsandgallery.com. And there's lots of stuff going on there for people to participate in.
Okay, resolution then.
Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the April 2025 Rails and Gallery and Arts Center report.
Mover and seconder. Walt and Nancy, all in favor? Here. EIA, Pat?
Murray, next meeting's on the 29th, which is just coming up, so I'll be able to report a bit after that. I know that the spring baskets are on their way for flowers and all the typical open.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, you bet. So.
Harvest Halliburton, they haven't met, I imagine.
No, not yet.
Got a bit of a break there. Kawartha Source Protection. That Walter Berry. Yeah, nothing there. Upper Trent. Nothing. Okay, well, we did the resolution to go into closed. Are we having a report from closed or not?
No, we don't have a report from closed today. I can read.
Girl.
I can read the confirming bylaw unless we have a notice of motion.
Okay. Is there any notices of motion? Okay. Confirming bylaw then, resolution.
Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-42, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held on April 22nd, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Okay, mover and seconder. Barry and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. And the adjournment?
Be it resolved that council adjourn its regular meeting held on April 22nd, 2025 at 2:50 p.m.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Carm, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.